please.
So for anybody listening, through this door, you go down the hall, there's another door, and it's the fourth bedroom that we call Christine's room. Because that room is dedicated to Christine. Now she's gone. And all we have left is a scrunchie that she left behind. So I smell it every morning. I smell it every night. Maylat smells it 3 times a day to remember our big sis, our bebe, Christine. But now she's on the podcast.
She's still alive, she's right here.
Well, yeah, but to me, she's dead to me.
Oh.
Oh shit!
Wow, this is
out.
the drama. The drama has begun.
No, this is awesome, man.
Officially.
This is great to have you here. This is awesome.
Yeah.
How have you been? Share a little bit about Christine. Okay, you know what would actually be really valuable? Your journey just from
Oh yeah, nobody knows who Christine is. Let's introduce her and let her talk.
She did pop on episode 30.
I
One
did.
of those.
so just walk us through like finding the group and what your life looked like, just like start of 2020 and then bring us to here.
Start of 2020.
Yeah, end of 2019, start of 2020.
All right. Well, Christine here. I guess. Well, the thing is, in beginning of 2020 was a bit of like the middle of my breaking point, I would say, of my life. I was pretty lost. It was right before COVID. So actually right before that, I had moved back home to my parents. So a little bit of a background to that is my background's in nutrition. So I was trying to practice as a nutritionist. Had all these business ideas, ran out of money, had to go back home. So I was getting myself back on my feet right at 2020. And everything was going great until then COVID hit. And I was like, all right, now what? So literally like all of 2020, I was just kind of bumming around, not knowing what to do with my life. And I wanted to like start a business still, but I was like really stuck in like just being back at home. I was like not in a good place. I had all these ideas that I wanted to start and like nothing really was working out. And then just like not having a job. Like I was working in the hospitality industry, like that all got shut down. So basically fast forward to like fall of 2020, started listening to Your Wish Is Your Command actually with a fellow self-perfected member. This was right before we joined the group. And this mutual friend, he knew Jess actually, who was in the Global Information Network. And yeah, so he reached out to Jess. She started kind of like, I guess doing what Jess does, asking questions like, why are you asking all this stuff? And what are you doing with your life? So anyways, it prompted him to, well, Jess actually said to him, well, yeah, definitely join the Global Information Network. So for anyone who doesn't know that, or I guess we've talked about this before, it's that leadership club by Kevin Trudeau. But so she was like, definitely join that group. But at the same time, I have this free Facebook group that you should come check out. So anyways, he got in first and he kind of told me about it and was like, hey, like these people are pretty serious. Like, even though neither of us like were on Facebook at the time. So anyways, he asked Jess, and it's funny because this was right before Self-Perfected like kind of blew up. There was maybe like 280 people in the group. And
the baby days.
Yeah.
Just getting going.
And so he was like, hey, like I have another friend that I would like to join, which was me. And Jess is like, yeah, like, well, just remember, like, we're looking for quality, not quantity. So make sure, she's, and he was like, yeah. Like, she's basically like another version of myself, like into personal development, like wants to improve herself, wants to, just like work on herself. Right. And she would be a good fit for this group. So I joined about a week later. This was now like beginning of December. Like, I think literally December 1st was when I got approved into the group. And yeah, got on the first global hangout on a Friday night. Spoke on the first, like on that hangout, which I guess, was people. It's funny because people were like complimenting me, being like, oh, like cool that you like spoke on your first call, because normally people get like a little, nervous or shy to like participate. Heard about this techno tutor thing, and I was like, all right, I don't know what these people are up to, but these are my kind of people. I need to know more about this techno tutor thing. Got techno tutor within like 3 weeks of that. So this was like right before Christmas. And then, yeah, like that was like my first experience with the group. And then within like a month of that, getting techno tutor, was seeing all the changes that I was seeing within myself. Like actually with Drake's help, I got my nutrition business back up and running within like a week or two of using techno tutor. And then I actually started watching the podcast. And that really is what opened me up to the vision of like everything that we're doing with techno tutor, self-perfected, and just like creating a world that's best for all. And part of like my background, especially in like my nutrition business, like part of my personal bigger vision was like wanting to get into the education system to educate people on health, on their nutrition, on like financial stability and all that kind of stuff, everything that you're basically not taught in school. But guess what? We're doing this with techno tutors. So I was like, hey, I'm going to get on board with these people that are already doing what I kind of like had in mind. And it's better, as a group, join the network versus like trying to figure it all on my own. And yeah, I basically haven't looked back since. So
it's been awesome.
Yeah.
One thing that we were just talking about this on another call about how when we became distributors, everybody else started, like when Mitch became a distributor, he started making more money in his business. When, some other people that, we've shared technical, when they became distributors, they started making more money in their business. When me and my brother became distributors, started making more money in their business. And then Christine, same thing for you. When you became a distributor, you started making more money in the nutrition business, right? So right now,
that was the exact same thing for me.
There you go.
I was working at Starbucks when I got techno tutor. Mm-hmm. 1 week later, somebody came up to me and was like, hey, you should work for us. I'm like, okay.
They're just like her, it's almost like the magnetic quality within you gets unlocked with a techno tutor, where people, it's like just opportunity presents itself.
Mm-hmm. And then it was specifically with the distributor support that I saw Mitchell explode. I saw, Oliver's business improve. Same thing for Christine. She's making that point. But I just want to speak to Christine a little bit because I got to spend a lot of time with you over the last however many months. And Christine's defining quality is teachability. The moves that she makes, and I was able to look at my own journey about like finding techno-tutor, then making the decision to actually get it, and then like seeing the vision more, and then becoming part of like becoming a distributor. It took years, right? It's because I was so wrought with fear all the time. It was awful. But the really cool thing about Christine, and I think it speaks to like how much progress she's made, like some of the addictions that you've quit, the changing your circle and all that stuff. It's like, it's actually crazy because you did in such a fast period of time. I just watched you every single time, even before we spoke, right? Every single time you saw something that was valuable to you, even though there was like some fear, what if, you made the decision and you made it the best thing ever. And to be clear, like, it's not just because you can make any decision and make it the best thing ever. This is the best thing ever. But every single time there was some limitation that came up and we would talk about it, I'd give you a suggestion. And sometimes it was really challenging, but you did it every single time categorically.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, I don't like to shy away from like something that can expand me. And like, I know this is like my next breakthrough kind of thing. And especially because I've always like, just ever since I was little, like I've always wanted to become the best version of myself. Like I've always wanted to be the most successful. So now that there's like a really clear process and like way about doing this, it just like makes sense. It's like, oh, like this is my limitation. This is what I'm, my resistance points. Like, it's like, okay, let's just like bust right through it, because what else am I gonna, like, I'm just gonna bullshit myself basically for the next, if I don't actually work through this point. Right, so, right. And also, I mean, like my age being like I'm not that old, but like 28, like I was pretty desperate. Some gray. Like I was pretty, I don't like using this word, but I was kind of desperate. Like by the time I found this group, like I was looking for something like, okay, like what am I really going to build my life on? Like what am I doing? There was a
sense of urgency.
Okay, yeah, that's much better said. Yeah, sense of urgency would, yeah.
Well, no, because of the example you said, anytime I notice myself accepting limitation, not wanting to change, I just tell myself, be like Christine. and then I did it.
What
You
would
got some,
Christine do?
yeah, you got some Bojangles going on there. It probably, but I want you to keep talking with your hands. But are you able to take it off? It's
Yeah,
just-
yeah. I had
I
brunch
see.
with Isabel earlier, so I was dressed up.
Right. So
Go to
I see
the
you got your.
self-protected store
Breakfast with
what do you call them, bangles?
Bojangles.
I call it Bojangles. Just say it.
Okay, yeah, some
bracelet or whatever.
Bojangles. We'll get those on the store.
I see you got your nails painted yellow for the Sunshine State.
I did.
So
I
how has
did.
it been? So you've been from Canada, you flew down to Florida, spent some time with Drake and just the people there. How's that been?
The things have been great, going really, really well.
How's
I've
Isabel?
She's awesome. I can't wait for y'all to meet Isabel.
And I think you shot a gun for the first time.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's probably the most American experience I've ever had. Honestly, it was so much fun. I was literally shaking. Like,
oh yeah.
like that was I haven't experienced that much fear in like since I was like little or something. Like even doing a live video is not like that terrifying to me anymore. But you know, like I literally was like, I'm gonna do this, but what if I like shoot the gun?
It was funny because like I for whatever reason I thought that she had shot guns before. Like
That badass. You look at her, she's badass. She probably shot a weapon before.
Definitely. No, like
That's the measure. Yeah.
I for whatever reason I was like,
I'm from Scarborough. That's
yeah, that's it. That's
Oh
a
my
shout out Scarborough.
that gang shit. Oh.
it sounds gangster, you know? I was like, she's definitely
Yeah.
shot guns. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was cool because like we walked in and you know, obviously there's loud noises and I could see the discomfort there. And she was still like, no, I'm totally doing this. I was like, all right, cool. That's what's up.
Yeah, like it was more the noises that really surprised because I've just never been in that setting before. So I've never heard guns. I've never like
Very loud.
people shoot guns. And the fact that it's like in like a cavernous like shooting range, like it's like a little so everything echoes too. So then you're like, I was jumping the whole time with every shot.
I
Literally,
hope
that's what I look
people
like.
are watching the video on that. Just Christina.
No, but I was literally jumping with every single gunfire that was going off in the range. And then it was hilarious though, because when I did my own, it was not like that. Like I was like, oh, this is actually way easier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But I was still literally like, I was shaking. It was intense. It was intense.
That's
But
awesome.
it was like a fear thing that I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to back out. I would never chicken out of something like that anyways. But I'm glad I did it. It was awesome.
And that's characteristic about how you've been making decisions.
It's
and
true.
moves. Anyways, wicked to have you here. Now, what the hell are we going to talk about?
Yeah, great question. I was just looking at this morning. I was looking at
You're looking at your morning. You're like, what did I do? Take a shit? Okay.
you know, I like taking shits, man.
That is
But
number
you
one
have
priority.
You have awesome shit. I love Christine's doing this. That means you've been telling her about your poos, right?
Since day one, actually.
I've been telling
That
her
was
about my
probably
poos.
one of our first conversations.
Since
So for
the
those of you who
start.
don't know, Drake started a raw milk kefir regimen a while back. And ever since then, man, his poos have
I'm
been
pretty sure he's been
amazing.
talking about his shits pre-Kefir.
That's true.
Yes, but this is the peak of it, and it's not going down, basically.
Okay.
The
It's
frequency
true.
of poo talk, yeah.
It's true. One of the first times I was messaging with Christine, it was something about poop.
Self perfected. Other people talk shit. We talk about our literal poo.
My kind of people. I knew it.
There you go.
That's why she joined.
There you go.
What
That's it.
were you saying, Drake? For real?
No, actually, I was looking at the word sign, and I was looking at something. Okay, something I didn't know about before, but signifier versus signified, right? And it's like I was looking into what this word sign was, because to me it looked like the word sign, like the sign on the side of a road, right? But it was talking about, like, Aristotle was talking about sign, and like it was talking about like all these different philosophers throughout history were talking about sign in linguistics, right? And so they're not talking about
I thought
signs.
about sine in mathematics, like cosine.
Okay, well,
So SIGN, though, right?
SIGN for
Okay.
clarification.
Okay.
Yeah, not SINE, right?
But let that go to show the way we usually associate words is through sound.
Right.
That's why that.
Right, and that's what the sign is. That's what the signifier is. The signifier is sound vibration, right?
Oh shit.
And then what it signifies is the thoughts that you have within your mind, whatever concept that provokes. That's what's signified by the sound. And
Holy
so,
shit, dude. Wait, slow that down. Wait, what? Is
okay,
that for real?
yeah.
Real time signifying.
Here's the really cool thing about it, right? Is that us having this conversation, like we're only able to have this conversation because the signifier that I'm giving, you recognize that same signifier and it maps out to the same signified mental concept, right?
Oh shit. It's like the word signal.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Communication aspect of it. Okay.
Exactly. So this is the signal, right? This is the sign. The words are your sign. Like you were talking about earlier about symbols, right? And like
That's a secret call, dude. Yeah. Okay.
I'm not giving the whole call. It was amazing, by the way. You guys should be on it. Find out more from Asif. I don't know. Reach out to him on Facebook or something.
Leave a comment and like this video and share it.
There you go. Yeah.
Watch, somebody's
yeah.
gonna listen to this in like a year from now, and they'll be like, "What call were you talking about?" I'll be like, "Oh."
I don't know. I don't fucking know. Yeah. But it was also cool because Christine and I were talking about neurotransmission, right? Like basically,
Classic conversations
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Like okay,
Grade 9 biology. What are you guys talking about?
pretty much.
Grade 9, damn, you guys got some next level education out in Scarborough or whatever.
But we were talking about like how neurons fire, right? And how it will create like an action potential, and basically like a channel opens up within the neuron and sodium fills that channel, and then another channel opens up and it goes down the line until that neuron fires whatever is producing, like potassium or whatever, right? And then that'll continue on, and there'll be like little flashes of that going on in your brain, right?
Mhm.
And the interesting thing is, she asked me, like, as I'm telling her about this, she goes, okay, so is there the possibility for a partial action potential? And the answer is no, right? Well, Mitch, you probably know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why does Mitchell know? And I don't know.
Psychology.
They go into that.
That's what I figured.
Told you, bro.
Okay, go in then.
Well, it's like a 1 or 0. It's like it either happens or it doesn't. It's
Exactly,
binary.
all or nothing.
Exactly. Okay, so that's the perfect analogy. It's either on or off, right? There's no a part of the way. There's no like, oh, it hurt a little bit, and so this neuron's only going to fire just a little, like halfway through.
Shit.
But the interesting thing is, we can tell the difference between when something is like, there's a bright light, there's a dim light, this hurt a lot, this hurt just a little bit, that, tickled, that was too much pressure, whatever, right? Like all those things.
That is all what she said.
All those things we can tell the difference between, yet the intensity that the neuron fires with, it's never greater or less or partial or it's always just, this is how it fires. It fired, it fired, right? So then how is it that we can tell the difference between those things?
It's how we received it. It's the signal that it's produced by firing.
The
So
frequency.
wait.
Frequency.
Specifically between what two things? Just to
Between like, easiest example, bright light, dim light.
Okay.
Since the neuron is either firing or not firing, what is the distinguishing factor between whether the light is bright or dim?
Because you would think that that's like an analog point of like, it's like there's on or off, but what you're saying is within on, there's also two settings in there, quote unquote.
Right. Because like you're thinking like volume, like you can turn up the volume, you can turn down the volume, but it's not that way. It's just on or off, right? And it's the same neurons that are firing because it's light, right? So you're perceiving the same light, but okay, is it dim? Is it bright? The difference is the frequency with which that neuron fires. So if it's a dim light, it's gonna fire at like maybe
The lower
5,
Hertz, megahertz, gigahertz.
well, not hertz, but like 5 times per second that neuron will fire.
That's you know what hertz is, right?
It's not exactly hertz.
How?
Okay, like
The formula for it
What do
is
they use to measure the
is
voltage?
oscillations per second.
is it oscillations per second?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna have to look it up. Let's get certain.
to-
anyways, rather than the jibber jabber. So yeah, the amount of times it happens per second.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah,
Based
versus
How
like
bright or
yeah.
dim it is.
so like a bright light would be maybe 100 or 200 times per second. You know,
Right. Versus a
that
dim one.
same
5, 50.
neuron would fire.
That's so interesting. So I'm reading up on chronic pain and how the brain receives that. And it's very similar to what you're saying, where if you have pain for an extended period of time, I'm talking like 6 months plus, right? Your brain then is getting that signal and those neurons are firing, but then they're firing for so long and they're firing so much that then more parts of your brain start to fire when that signal gets sent up. So it's now not just received here, it's received here and here. And then eventually you're receiving it everywhere. So chronic pain is perceived as very like can be perceived as excruciatingly painful. But in reality, that signal at the beginning that was not very painful, and then later on in life, you're like, oh my gosh, it's now so excruciatingly painful. It's because that signal has been on and it's been produced in many sections of your brain now because it's been so long. And so the frequency it's changed. Like if you receive a signal multiple times, it can change how your brain receives that signal because it's received it so many times. Just crazy.
Okay, so this now 2 points on this to expand this into how to actually, from my perspective, take this and like make an impact in the world. One is there's a quote I heard years ago where I forgot who it was, some guy I met at some mastermind. He said 99% is the same as 0%. He was talking of like, are you going after your dreams? Are you living your purpose?
Wow.
He's like, whether it's 99 and 0, same thing.
That's
I was
so
like,
cool.
damn, like I gotta
that.
get to 100. But I was so fucked up, I didn't know how to get to 100. My programming is all right. My neurons in my brain were all, not effective, right? And so there's that. But now to bring it to what we're saying about the frequency is like, okay, let's say you're doing shit in the world that matters, such as sharing this podcast or taking action to bring people into this group. There's that 100% is if you actually convert, you actually get that person to join the group, let's say. That's the 100, right? Then you cross that gap. Now, what's the frequency by which you can do that? Because if you can do it once, cool. Then you can do it again and again. And then you build a system so that you can have it over and over and over and over. And then, voila, you've actually created something.
That's so cool because think about that compared to the chronic pain thing I just explained. So chronic pain has become like almost controls your life because it's all the time and it's received everywhere in your brain. Well, if you've gotten so good and effective at sharing this with people that they receive it and they join, and that pathway and those neurons get lit up, and then more of your brain gets lit up because you're doing it so frequently and so often that eventually you're just out of control. Like your whole brain is like, let's go. I'm so effective at inviting people to this group.
My brain becomes Jessica. Let's go. So wait, for Drake and Christine, when you guys were talking about that, what kind of conclusions did you guys start drawing and looking at? Kind of like how Mitchell was making that point. What did you guys see within that?
Well, I was bringing up the signified thing today because that was just something I was looking into more specifically today myself. We were having that conversation about the neurons a little bit earlier in the week, but as far as like the signifier and signified, what that brought about from like this kind of thinking was, oh, like we are really like there's zeros and ones firing within our brain. So it's either on or off. But then in order for us to actually communicate, the messages that we're receiving and giving are really just these encoded zeros and ones, right? And so it's these really specific patterns that we're very attuned to. And so even just like the way that I'm speaking right now, like there's a pattern or a rhythm to the words that I'm using, but then within that pattern that you're picking up on, there's also the pattern and rhythm of each specific word that you've already got identified within you, right? And so it's sort of like Lego pieces falling into place, right? But if you're using the wrong Lego pieces, so in other words, if the signifier that I'm using, you've got it mapped to a different signified mental concept, you're fucked because you can't keep up with whatever it is that I'm actually saying. Not that what I'm saying is like particularly special or anything, but just being mapped to what's going on in reality, you're not mapping to that. And so that's messing up your ability to create, to respond, to be effective here in this world.
That's such a great point, because if I start talking like this, I will start exposing different aspects within your mind constructs. Bernard makes this point in Cult Bashers Are Con Artists. He talks about, I specifically designed everything that I'm saying so that it doesn't instill any confidence inside of you. What the fuck does that mean? That means that you're not going to listen to me because, wow, like that really resonates with me. Like that's not what you're going to be saying.
Dude, I want to put something in here right here, because one of the
put it in me.
One of the like fundamental concepts of this signifier versus signified, like one of the fundamental concepts of this philosophy or of this, I don't know, whatever they're looking
idea.
at. Yeah, this idea is that the bonds between signified and signifier are arbitrary. Meaning,
shit, it's
like,
just by association. It could be
exactly
anything. Yeah,
exactly. Like how we came to use these specific words or whatever, or make this like association of that is bad and this is good. It's completely arbitrary.
And that's the point that we make in the past when we talk about Dr. Emoto, when you put hate on the thing, it's broken water crystals, right? Or if you put love on it, then it's beautiful water crystals. We were making the example of if you put Hitler on it and you're a Jew and Hitler killed your family and shit, broken ass water crystals, right? But if you're a Nazi and you put Hitler on it, probably be beautiful water crystals. It's not because there's objectivity in the words, it's because of what's inside of you. But
that's it.
But that's not an excuse to not learn vocabulary. As a society, as a world system, we have collective agreements on what these words mean. The part that you don't want to fuck up is having any kind of positive or negativity to any of the words, so you can be stable, so you're not constantly in reaction to every word they say.
Okay, so let's say, the Jew looks at Hitler, and it's like
playfully
it's all like
anti-Semitic,
And then the Nazi, like we might get banned for this one.
If we didn't get banned for the other stuff, I think we'll be fine here. We're good.
Well, okay, so I want to know, what is that beautiful geometric pattern? Isn't on a deeper level that's actually the signifier? Like why is it beautiful and why is the other one?
It's like that's also an arbitrary judgment, right? Now, I was considering that.
Hang on. Is that the question that you were asking, Mitch?
It's not exactly. It's like we call, if it looks beautiful, we think it looks beautiful, where maybe it's not. But there's clearly a difference between if it's that beautiful geometric pattern, right? Because it's the geometries are balanced instead of more of a chaotic, right? There's more order than chaos. We could use
structure versus chaos.
Yeah.
That we can differentiate between the two.
Yeah. So why is that the case?
What do you mean? So
is there that difference?
When Like, are you talking about specifically in reference to when somebody has a good association with a word versus when they don't?
Yeah, just in general. So like on some level, that order and that chaos is within us, and it can get projected out into that water, for example.
Right, where that's the main. Oh, actually, Drake, you see.
I think that's a really good thing to look at, because like look at our bodies. You know, there's structure within our bodies. Like it's very specific. Like look at the way that a tree grows. It's very specific. Look at like actual things in nature. The way that we are designed is with this like geometrical structure to us.
Mhm.
And so it would make sense that we pick up on patterns that, you know, they sink in, so to speak, with our design. That could just be like something that is inherent within our design of feeling some sort of attraction towards that structure, I would think.
Right.
What we call it, I think, is more the point that's like more arbitrary.
Right.
Well, isn't that structure then, on some level, isn't that a signifier?
No, how are you, like, what do you mean by that?
Like, if we have that structure within us, we're able to send that out, and then that signified would be
Wouldn't that
the structure, yeah, could be a signifier, right? Like I could see that. Like if I'm looking at like a flower, that's a signifier. What it means then is what's signified, like what that means to me. So maybe this flower means like fruit is coming, you know, or
But you know, the specific point of you creating the image and likeness of you, the water is just containing the it's just reflecting back to you what's inside of you. So in terms of it, it's like if I punch a hole in the wall because I was fucking angry, yeah, the hole in the wall becomes a signifier of, oh, right, like I punched a hole in the wall because I was angry. But it's like you created it. So it's a feedback loop all the time.
there is a feedback loop within signifier.
Yeah,
and signifier.
that's what I was just gonna say is like both of them in and of themselves could be labeled either depending on what stage you're looking at it.
Right. That's well said.
Yeah,
Now-
so this signifier becomes the signified and kind of vice versa.
Yeah, essentially.
And that's the way it works with children, right? It's like, let's say I'm a parent and I do a shitty job and my child becomes the result of my shitty job. So I was the signifier and then the child is the signified. And then the child starts treating me like shit when he's a teenager. That's now a signifier and I'm the signified because I'm like reacting all the time.
On a greater level, isn't that just showing that life exists and all life is equal? Thus, life can be either the signified or the signifier.
It's kind of true because
Well, yeah, it's like that quote, like we are programmable beings. It's from one of Bernard's blogs, explaining how we're programmable beings, so we can be programmed, but we're in a programmable universe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you get programmed and then you're programmed.
Yeah,
It's just the whole starting point within everything up until now has been fucked up. It's been self-interest only. So that's why we were talking about self-perfection, which is bringing it back to what's best for all. And then we program reality from that starting point. But you got to be self-honest about that. So now with signifier, we all have a signature, right? And that signature, we're all walking around with ours. And so we're out here signifying all the stuff from our signature, but it's all fucked up.
Wouldn't it just be communication, like very simplistically, like even just how we communicate within ourselves, which then will be translated, and like even the communication signal is technically like the neurotransmitters and chemicals that are produced in our body, which then, because those are also thoughts, feelings, and emotions, right?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because what we're assuming, you know, like when we have thought, this is actually fucking great. We're having thoughts and all this stuff, right? And we're assuming that it's our signifier. We're like, this is what I think, not realizing that's actually the signified. That's just information that was put into us and we're experiencing the result of it. Bernard says this quote in that same Cult Bashers audio. He's like, if you're following your thoughts and feelings, and you don't specifically understand how that thought was created in your quantum mind, you're fucked. You have no critical thinking ability.
Which even like goes back to like even disease, right? Where disease is like the lack of communication or like the dis-ease of communication within yourself and your body, right?
Now imagine within yourself, all of your water crystals were broken. In other words, you didn't have the structure within you. Because think about it, right? Why would even in the context of that specific experiment, why you having a quote unquote negative or I guess destructive reaction to a word would result in a broken structure. It's like things aren't flowing properly, quote unquote, energy is getting stuck because things aren't flowing out of you because you don't have the expression, you don't have the proper communication to get out what you're trying to get out. Now, in terms of, and then that results in disease, right? Lack of ease. It's literally just cooped up in there. You as a big structure, it's like all disconnected and shit, which is what Mitchell was talking about. When you're talking about before, like I was all fucked up and I couldn't figure my shit out. That was all of us, all of us are. And then we consistently start organizing ourselves within ourselves, forgiving the past, which is literally like vibrating out the memories of your flesh or your water to repurify that structure.
You know, it's interesting.
Yourself, and thus you yourself become signified through the signals that you gave it.
You're changing the meaning of the signified.
Yeah.
Right. That's why it's so important to speak all yourself, forgiveness out loud and stuff like that. Drake, what were you gonna say?
We're just watching Century of the Self. And it's so great.
Yes.
So like there's they were talking about how there were previous movements in psychology where they felt like the individual was evil, and so society was basically meant to control the individual, right? And then there was a separate movement later that basically looked at like, no, society is the thing that's bad.
The collective.
Yeah, and so it's the individuals, they need to express their freedom. We need to break off from the society. We shouldn't try to conform to this society. Well, both of them are right and wrong, right? Because it's not just, so it's basically, one of them was saying it's the society is that's the signifier, or that's, where all the importance is. And the other was saying, no, the importance is in the signified, and the signifier is not important at all. And it's the same argument that they're having in both camps, right? But the reality is we are both equally important, meaning the society that we're creating is influencing the individuals. And the society that we have currently shouldn't be one that we conform to. However, we should be creating a society that produces individuals who are healthy, who are, definitely well-formed, or as I think
educated.
Yeah, educated, right? But adjusted for doing what's best for all. Right now, we don't have a society that's adjusted for that, and everyone's like really the word was like maladjusted for society, and maladjusted for each other and for ourselves, and society's maladjusted for us. But yeah, I just wanted to toss that in there.
Because when we say best for all, what is then signified to the average person listening to this, right?
They're thinking communism, they're thinking utopia, they're thinking like all the things that can't be, essentially. Right. And it's none of the things that we're saying even, right?
Yeah.
And I find it
everyone, okay?
What was that?
What'd you say?
I said that's not what we're signifying, everyone.
That's right. That's right. If only it was that easy. That's not what I'm signifying.
Oh, okay, got it.
But seriously though, I find it really interesting. I've noticed people will have an aversion to saying best for all.
Yes.
Like they get afraid of it because they know that other people are judging that. And they don't want to be a part of the judge, even though like we're literally saying best for all, for everyone.
Like this is my favorite part. When I noticed this in myself, I was like, oh fuck, dude, I'm retarded. It's like, seriously, it's like, imagine you only give hey, let me tell you a quick story, actually.
Go ahead.
I was with my grandma yesterday, and my grandma's like this old, I don't know if that was a given, but she's old. There's an old Muslim lady, right? And she's really religious, right? And I joke with my grandma. I don't see her very often, but all she does is complain, right? So she's like, "Are you gonna have a, she's like, you and your partner, like, are you guys gonna have a religious wedding?" I'm like, "Grandma, she's black." Like, I put on this racism point within her. She's like, "It's okay." Like, it's so funny. The first time I was like, "Grandma, I have a black girlfriend." I was saying it like that, and she's like, "What? You joke?" It's a Guyanese slang. She's like, "You're joking. Stop joke, man." I'm like, "No, I have a black girlfriend, Grandma." Anyways, so she's racist. So no, she's not actually racist. She's not actually racist. She is actually racist, but it's like that low key kind of shit.
That Caribbean.
That Caribbean. Exactly. She's that Caribbean racist, right? But she's like, it's okay as long as you guys have a Muslim wedding. So I just say, "Oh, grandma. This is all I said. I said, "Grandma, I'm here to change the world." She slapped me in the face. She said, "You're gonna go to hell for saying that. God, like, you're not responsible for that." It was just like a playful. It wasn't dramatic. I don't make it too dramatic. Jake, close him out and make it. I think I hyped up the story too much. No, that was the first. I told her it's the first time you slapped me in the face, Grandma. I was like, "This is crazy. It's the first time you slapped me in the face." I said, "I'm gonna change the world." She said, "Stuck, bro." She started saying some shit, and Annabelle said, "Stuck, bro." And she's like, "Don't say that." All I said was, I'm going to change the world. You change the world, stuff. That is for God's will, right? My point is, when I only had the context of the context. I didn't have context. I only had the context of watching Cameron's videos or talking to Cameron, being like, we're here to do what's best for all. Just that alone. No how. I didn't even ask. Right. And I thought this about my grandma. I didn't even ask. "Okay, can you tell me more about that?" It was just like, can't do what's best for all. I don't want to have to sacrifice. And then he's like, "Dude, I just said best for all. That's you included." And it clicked after I heard it probably like the fourth fucking time. After I used technically for a certain amount of time, then he said it. That was actually the determining factor, right? I'm like, oh, I wasn't even listening to the words. I literally heard the signal come through, and I just had a bunch of programming that was like, don't try to change anything. If you try to change, you have to sacrifice and give up everything you want and all this stuff. He's like, but the words best for all without any how, right? We haven't even gotten to the point where we can explain step by step, here's what we're going to do. Because if people are reacting to the concept alone of just doing what's best for all, how are we supposed to walk somebody through, here's actually what's going to look like? They're already creating a bunch of ideas about it, right?
Hold on.
Oh, fuck, dude.
Part of this is selling them, right? To help them go from that 0 to 100%. So they have that switch of they're like, "Oh shit, best for all. Okay, I get it." I've at least found when I break that down for people, I'm like, best for all. Okay, what does that actually mean? Okay, everyone has their basic needs met, right? Is it best that kids don't have clean drinking water? Okay, no, right? So we're on the same page with that. You just break that down. Sometimes that helps people get to that point where they're like,
hang on, Mitchell, hang on. It sounds like you're just repeating something that somebody else said. You didn't even come up with these thoughts on your own.
Got him. Close back.
I mean, according to the Book of Babylon, nothing is an original thought. So,
oh shit,
who cares?
Well, no, but there's a good point, right? I was being dramatic when I was saying, like, if people can't get the concept, how are they supposed to get the how? That's why we talk about the practicality of doing what's best for all on the podcast, so we don't have to deal with your reactions. You have to do it yourself. I'm joking. But seriously, it does come back to education. So walking through the practicality of what that actually looks like, of course, that was always a good point, because I remember reading somewhere, it's like, doing what's best for all is subjective, but the thing that we can all agree on is everybody needs food, water, shelter, great education. And it was from people who are, for some reason, fighting what we're doing. And I'm like, wait, that's the only thing that we're saying we should start with. Because right now we're not at a point where we can agree on everything because everyone's so fucked. we're only thinking about ourselves. So we're not going to agree about all the nitty gritty. But what we can what we can objectively agree on right now is the food, water, shelter thing that's not even taken care of yet. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Jess.
So for me, it's like I'm still walking this process. I'm still working through all the bullshit that I had programmed into me when I was little. Like, obviously I couldn't even fathom anything outside of basic needs currently, because there's probably a bunch of projections and a bunch of reactions still attached to whatever it is I'm trying to figure out. So if we are to say, we know exactly what is best for all outside of even basic needs, that's crazy. We have to first have walked our own process, let go of all those reactions and all that shit. And then also we have to have a large group of people who have done that, because then we can all come together and we can come up with problem solutions and all this stuff live time. But until that point, there's no reason to sit here and act like you're on a high horse and you know what's best outside of basic needs. Because currently,
that's great.
There are so many people dying from basic things. Like, it's insane. And that is something that every person can agree on. Every single human being can agree that everyone needs water, everyone needs food, everyone needs shelter, everyone needs clothes, and everyone needs an education.
That's right.
It's not that hard. It's literally not.
Literally, it's just coming out of survival mode, right? Because it's like that. I think that's just what people get confused with communism, is like, oh, bringing everyone down to a certain level. But it's like, no, we're here to like bring everyone up to that survival, like, you know, beyond the survival point, and then you can have the freedom to express and create and then do what's best in your own life, because that is going to look different from someone else.
That is the thing with like communism, is it like literally brings you down to like the most basic survival. Like what do you just need to survive? Like in the very like worst sense, you know, like, oh, okay, you only need like 5 grams of water per day to actually live,
to not die, right?
Yeah, to not die, exactly.
But the way we're talking about survival is like, how do we set it up so that you have the foundation to live the best life? Yeah, that's what we're redefining survival as. Now, a massive, really cool point from talking about the neurotransmission, about 0 to 99% is still 0, and 100% being 1, right? That's what 100% represents. It's 1, right? Even though it seems like a big number, it's not, right? If you get 100% of a cookie, it's 1 cookie. It's not a big deal. I need more than 1 cookie.
Like, okay, it's like if there's a competition going up and you have to collect 1,000 tin
dildos. Tin cans.
Dildos in tin cans.
Okay, so you have to collect 1,000 tin cans, right? And then you get
Mitchell the negotiator.
Something.
Best of both worlds.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, you have 1,000 tin cans, you get this. If you have 999, that doesn't cut it. That's not 1,000. You don't win the competition. Go cry to your grandma.
My grandma in the face.
That's a great point, right? It's like this idea that it's a spectrum, but it's not. And this is the point I wanted to make. When you are not doing what is best, you will get caught in all of the stupidest arguments ad infinitum. For example, should that cop have stepped in on that 16-year-old girl and defended or whatever, or should he not have, right? Or pro-life or pro-choice, or all these vaccination around. When you're not doing what's best, when the system is not set up in a way that's best, there is no right answer. If you get sucked into that argument, you're fucked. Because you're just choosing like, okay, should we choose this set of consequences or this set of consequences, right? And everyone is just going to argue for their own self-interest. This is why Bernard makes that point, is there's only 2 decisions. Just like that contest that Jessica was talking about. in that contest, there's a win and there's a lose. If you get 1,000 tin cans and dildos, you win. If you get 999, one dildo and 998 tin cans, you lose. It's binary. Same thing with doing what is best. You're either doing what is best in a moment or you're not. And there's so many different ways to abuse yourself. There's so many different ways to abuse your relationship, your body, all that stuff, which if you do so, you'll never figure it out. That's why we talk about there being the purpose. It's one purpose. Because in the context of where we are right now, the only thing that makes sense is to make sure that everyone's provided for. Why? Because imagine, just pretend that this world is actually a reflection of what's going on inside of every individual. And there's 3 billion people who don't even have fucking bank accounts. We're all tripping about COVID, right? And there's been like, I remember at the 14, 16 month mark, there's been almost 3 million deaths. But every 12 months, 9 million people die from nutritional deficiencies and hunger related diseases. Yeah. Which one is a bigger problem? You know what I'm saying? Now imagine that's reflective of our body.
One affects you more.
And restart. It cut out a little bit.
So with which one's a bigger problem? We tend to think, oh, it's COVID, right? Because if I don't have the mask on, it's going to get me and it's like the boogeyman or some shit. Guess what? Just because you can't see all these 20,000 children right now today dying from preventable causes doesn't mean they aren't here. So you can delude yourself as much as you want, but when you're honest with yourself, you realize, like, what are the odds that you were born into your life versus you were some kid in Cameroon who got born into some rural village and now you have to get recruited to be a child soldier and go kill a village of people? Because that's literally reality for many, many people. What are the odds you're you and you aren't that child soldier?
That's cool. That's like when you look at that argument of, okay, 3 million, and this is like the big thing that's like present in everyone's face and everyone's mind versus
terrorizing the world, right?
Yeah, it's the same argument that Jess was just making as far as like, look, we can agree on you need the basics. You need the basics, and everything beyond that we're not sure of. We're not claiming to be sure of, but like you at least need the basics. And how you go about doing that, or like, if somebody's feelings are hurt in the process of like getting everybody the basics, okay, so what? Your feelings got hurt. Shut the fuck up.
Do you have your basics? Okay.
Exactly. I think Cam, can you hear us, Cam?
My water in a blue water bottle instead of a pink water bottle. Sexist son
Speaking of not caring about people's feelings, hey everybody.
What's up?
What's going on, man? So at this point, whoever's listening to this podcast, Cameron, this is the first podcast on a brand new property. Is that right?
Well, I'm not on my property right now. I'm in my property. I'm in my car.
What's been going on in your neck of the woods?
Oh man, yeah, we just moved. So now we're in our own little place out here it's a little bit more of a rural situation. And I'm just driving to another town to get a replacement door for one of our doors. So I feel like a real country person out here.
Country man.
Like I got to go to the town next to my town to get a door, speaking of basic needs. And then there's some people who like literally can't even get their basic needs met at all. And here I am. I'm like, I'm just going to hop in my truck and drive to another town and buy something.
Yeah.
So it's all perspective, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
Thank you.
So anyways, yeah.
Cameron, Christine's on here?
I assumed that, but I didn't know. I can't see anything as I'm just calling in.
Dude, you should if you can't see anything, you shouldn't be driving, dude.
Wait, you guys open your eyes when you drive?
No. Oh damn, wait, I forgot. You're at that level in process where you can just like feel things like Daredevil, the vibration and stuff.
I'm self-perfected, guys.
When you close your eyes, if that's what's real.
That was dirty.
Hey, I have an objection for y'all.
Dude, I can't handle it emotionally. Just stop.
Good.
Okay.
You guys just think you're so perfect because you're called self-perfected. Like you just think you're perfect and you're better than everybody.
Yeah, and
That's it.
What do you say to that? You
Yeah.
should change the name. You should change the name from self-perfected to maybe someday I'll perfect myself if it's possible.
No, that's
Well,
too long.
Well,
What'd you say?
she said that's
This-
too long. That's too long.
that title is too long.
Oh,
man.
it might not fit on the shirt, but yeah.
That's always going to be coming from somebody who doesn't have a group of the same caliber. So
Who doesn't have what?
who doesn't have a group of the same caliber. So
Same caliber, yeah.
right. So why take advice? There's going to be, and this is for everybody, anybody who stands up in any way against the system. And standing up against the system might be, yeah, I think I'm going to homeschool my children. And Cameron was making this.
But hold on. How are we standing up against the system?
And yeah, the
You know
point
what
I
I
was
mean?
going to
Like,
make.
clarify that. Yeah.
The point I was going to make is there was a time before when you were talking about how when people they'll see Max, they'll see Seneca, they'll be like, oh my God, your baby boy's so beautiful. Wow, he's so, oh my gosh, you're gonna have to keep the women off him, all this stuff. And if you question them, they'll get defensive. Like, hey, look, why are you saying that? They won't know. They don't know why they're saying, and we all do this, right? We don't know why we're saying what we're saying sometimes. But we have the awareness to take responsibility for it. But the point being, that is the system within the individual expressing itself through the individual. And my point is, when you're challenging somebody's beliefs, that is going quote unquote up against the system. You taking a stand, period, is going up against the system. Because what is the system used to? Sit down and shut up.
You
Isn't
can't be perfect. Nobody's perfect.
Right, exactly. Right?
Jesus.
but here's the perfection. Here's the perfection, right? It's like if you go up to a stranger and punch them in the face, okay, what do you predict is going to happen? Let me know how it goes, Cameron. But
I'll tell you in about 5 minutes.
but could you see, like, what you are predicting is going to happen is you, regardless of whether you're right or wrong, the fact that you're even imagining what's going to happen is proof that you know that if you do X, it's going to result in Y. We live in a cause and effect, right? So right now we've created the conditions for an abusive system. We're doing X, Y, that results in Z. Z. Sorry, for my Americans. For my Texan boys. Driving in the country road from town to town, going to get doors. Collecting tin cans and dildos. But
we have to say that every time we say the letter Z. even in a word, which doesn't come up often, but you know.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Yeah, we're going to the zoo. Yeehaw!
That word more there than they do in Houston.
What's that?
Yes.
Yes, I knew it.
They actually say yeehaw out there.
Cameron's like, brisket, yeehaw.
Is there any other words?
Oh, it's like the contextual. You guys know, like Smurfs. Like, oh, I just smurfed that. That's like yeehaw for them.
Oh yeah.
I was yeehawing down the road yesterday, and this yeehaw just cut me off. I was like, yeehaw, motherfucker.
Kind of what it's like.
But here's the point within the perfection point. I remember way back before we had these podcasts and the group and all that stuff. It was just me, retarded, and my retarded brother, depressed, stupid, right? Trying to figure out life. But I'm serious though. I was stupid. So when Kian was up, I would make sure to bring him down. And he was stupid. So when I was up, he would bring me down. It was a beautiful cycle. It was like the exact opposite of, where we are collectively now. But I would listen to Cameron's live videos. He has like a wealth of old Facebook live videos. A lot of them are on YouTube. Some of them are not. But he makes this point about predictability is a form of perfection. All right. Thinking about perfection in the context of a toaster, right? It's like every time you have these settings and you put the toast down, it comes up golden brown every time. If you had the exact same settings, you put the toast down, and sometimes it came up totally undercooked, and some with the exact same settings, you put it down, it came up and it was totally burnt, you would throw the toaster out because you expect that toaster to be
Predictable.
perfect, right? In that context, it's like you can program a toaster to have to be unpredictable. But right now, all the toasters are programmed, generally speaking, to be predictable. It has these characteristics or conditions, and it creates this.
But it's like, you know, it's broken when it's not giving you what you want.
Right. Exactly. Right. It's the same thing for us. Everybody, it's so beautiful because I remember when I Google self-perfected and we're the first ones that come up, I was like, damn, how often does that happen? True, because nobody's calling themselves anything to do with perfection. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because we have this deep point inside of us of, I can't change. Therefore, to even accept an idea of perfection is depression, because I'm accepting that I can't be that.
Because what's signified within perfect, the signifier of perfection, of perfect, of self-perfected, is like, for a lot of people, what's signified is that religious program, like Mitch was bringing up, of Jesus, or of like, you can't be perfect, or humanity's not perfect, humans aren't perfect. All of that comes up, and then it's just like you said earlier with your grandmother, like not even questioning it. Nah. You can't be perfect. You can't.
Also, there's perfectionism, right? Which is like a mental disorder.
Yeah.
Right. So there's every reference point is like something's wrong with perfect. But the reality is a tree is perfect, like a seed is perfect, because you put the seed in the ground, you get a tree, assuming the conditions are right. It's predictable, like Asif was saying. So exactly. I was going to add this point. One time I was talking with Avery recently, and he made this really cool point. I forget what the context was, why we were talking about this, but he just made this point about, you know, perfection, self-perfection is in the moment. So in terms of walking your process, it's like, are you walking the process perfectly in that moment? So it's not about, oh, I'm better than you because I believe I'm self-perfected. It's like, no, it's in this moment, did I take the steps necessary within myself to move myself towards doing what's best for all? Like, in other words, I'm challenging my programming. I'm not accepting and allowing things anymore. Or am I simply just acting in the way that's best for all because I've already programmed that point, and therefore I'm no longer in a state of reaction? Either of those two things are acceptable, as long as the first one isn't being used as an excuse not to do the second one. But then the third option would be, well, I mean, you can't be perfect. So, you know, and then you just accept whatever it is. So in that moment, it's like things are going to be unstable. Like, we just did this big move here. You know, we took both of our kids, obviously, our 2 cats and our dog, and all of our shrimp, which, I mean, we got a lot of shrimp, guys. I haven't really talked much about our shrimp. We've got at least 100 shrimp.
Okay, Bubba Gump.
Now, that being said, they're very small. They're about the size of like not even the tip of your pinky. But you know, they are animals and beings in themselves. So you know, we have some fish. We have a fish tank, basically, is my point. Okay, for those who are slow on the uptake here. So we had to move all that stuff, right? And it was challenging. Like, I mean, it's not like any major challenges came up per se, but there's like automatic patterns where I would go into stress, or you know, it's like I was even watching myself as like, hey, and normally I'm a lot of fun with my kids, but now I'm being a little bit more like strict, or just kind of like, hey, I need to do this, like stop doing that right now. And like really having to check in those moments, like, am I going into just control mode, or like, why am I shifting in who I am? Like, who am I from my kids' perspective? Are they seeing me as somebody different right now that's unpredictable from who they knew I was? You know, like, I have to look at things from all those perspectives. So in my point being that there's still things that each of us obviously clearly have to walk through and challenge. And I would say the difference from my perspective of somebody who's in self-perfected and who's actually participating full on, not just a lurker, but someone who's not, or someone who's not really participating. So someone who's like, when I say in the group, I mean like they're actually participating, right?
Right.
Which doesn't mean they can't ever make mistakes. That's part of the point. But somebody who's really committing themselves and is walking the points and reaching out and participating and doing all of the points necessary. The difference between someone like that versus someone who isn't in the group, who's not in self-perfected, is whether they're actually trying or not.
Yeah.
Like whether
exactly.
they're actually growing, whether they're actually pushing themselves.
Mhm.
And it's like, you could say, well, like, you shouldn't be so arrogant. You need to have some humility and stop saying you're self-perfected, which none of us ever claim we're self-perfected. Again, it's in the moment. If someone says, are you perfect? I would say, well, did I go into my mind just now? Did I go into a reaction just now? Like, am I standing clear, stable, within principles right now, in this moment? Am I accepting and allowing weakness and excuses in this moment? And if you look around at the world, are there problems that are unnecessary? Yeah. So can any of us claim to be perfect yet?
Mm.
Obviously
What do you
not.
mean by that? What do you mean by that? Why would that be the indicator of us not being perfect?
Because that would imply separation, wouldn't it?
Mm.
Wouldn't that imply like, oh, I'm separate from everybody else and you guys aren't perfect as I am? It's like,
Right.
well, how am I perfect if you are me in another life? Like, who am I defining as I? Like, is the child starving me or is it just someone else? At the end of the day, aren't we all one? I mean, we are individualized, but if you're suffering, isn't that also my responsibility? Now, in this very moment, I may not be able to do anything about that, but that's my whole point. I'm not going to claim to be, and this is really where we differ from enlightenment.
Mm.
Enlightenment is I achieve this state of bliss and perfection within myself, and I'm good. Hey, you just got to figure it out, buddy. It's on you. You just got to let go of this or don't do that or whatever. And it's like, the way I'm looking at self-perfection is like, how am I measuring whether I'm moving towards self-perfection or I am self-perfecting myself in the moment, or am I acting in a perfect, predictable way in terms of what's best for all in a moment? How do I measure that is based on what am I doing to change the problems that are beyond just what I have power over right now. So in other words, like, what can I expand into? What can I take more responsibility for? And if I go, well, I'm just going to, in the pandemic, it's like, well, clearly I can't do that right now. Like, there's so many different points of people that are communicating about that. So, okay, but who would I have to be to actually to be one of those people, to be a leader in that context? Oh, well, I mean, let me look at where that would be versus where I'm at right now and see where's the gap. So what am I accepting right now that would not allow, it's like, I'm trying to think of an example I wouldn't mind sharing. It's like if you've ever bought a home, for example, right? And a relatively expensive home, or even a non-expensive one. It's a stressful thing. Like just doing the paperwork, and it's like, oh, is it going to close? Are they going to back out? Like just all that stuff. Even if you're just, even if you're not paying cash for it, if you're just getting a loan, like having to get all the loan stuff, and you know what I mean, all those points. But then if you look at it and you go, okay, if I can't handle sitting here closing on a $500,000 deal, how the fuck would I be able to handle a $10 million deal or a $50 million deal, or closing on a contract to provide, some kind of basic service for millions of people in a country?
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And so when you're at that level, you can't be like losing your shit over a $10 million deal. So you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can look at it in so many different contexts, right? But really my point is, the way I look at it for myself is not about I've achieved a state of perfection and therefore people need to listen to me or worship me or praise me or anything like that. It's like, no. And here's the thing. Somebody who's not holding themselves to the same points is going to be probably jealous or nasty or whatever, because in order for me or any of you or us, let's say, to achieve our goals, according to what we're all saying, don't we have to have more success just on a material basic level according to what other people want?
Of course.
So if somebody else isn't walking with the principles and they're still operating from the starting point of just pure greed, then they're just projecting that. You see what I mean? Onto you.
Absolutely.
They're projecting onto you that, oh, you must be doing it for the same reason I am.
Yeah.
And therefore but they didn't put in the self-discipline and the effort to create what you've created. And it's not about taking credit. It's not like, okay, I have a home, therefore I created that all by myself because I'm an amazing creator. No, I fucking understand that it's a part of a system and I'm playing the part in the system that's about money and whatever it is. I'm not pretending like I'm such amazing manifestor. I manifested a house out of thin air. No, I know that didn't happen. But because I am actually honest with myself about what is actually required, and I have the ability to build my vocabulary to do it, I was able to acquire certain things. So it's not because I'm so great, it's because I have the vocabulary to do it. But the person who doesn't have the vocabulary projects outward, you have to be great to do it. But I'm not great, and I'm a greedy fuck. So that person over there who has it must be a greedy fuck, when it's just a difference in vocabulary. And so they're not going to look at it from the perspective I am, which is nothing that I have matters outside of the context of what's best for all.
Yeah.
But within that, I can't sacrifice myself or anyone else. And so to another person, that might look like arrogance, but to you guys, it doesn't. Because why would you be jealous? Like if you guys, like Jess and Mitch, are buying a new place, right? And it's a great looking place. I mean, I think honestly, your house looks better than mine. And I'm happy for you. Like, I'm glad because you guys will be able to do things with that people will listen to you and you'll have more influence and you'll have a place where you can have people, there's so many things you're going to do that. I know that. So why should I, from the starting point of being in a group with principals, why should I be jealous? Because if it were because hypothetically you were doing things that I wasn't doing, and that's why you were getting a different result, let's just say that was the reason, then wouldn't I have the option of just doing what you're doing?
Yes.
So anybody who would complain about, oh, well, these self-perfectors, it's like, we're telling you exactly what we're doing in extreme openness beyond what anyone else would do. Is Bill Gates or Elon Musk telling you a fucking thing about what they're really doing?
No.
They're not. So my point is how we measure ourselves according to making a difference, which this is my point. Have we made a real fundamental difference in this world? Have things changed actually yet?
Not yet.
They haven't. So no one's sitting back. I know none of us are sitting back going, oh, we're so amazing. Look at us. Look at everything we've created. No. But here's the other thing. If we don't brag about what we are doing and have done, no one will fucking want to do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the fake humbleness. You know what I mean? Like,
the fake
I'm
humbleness.
humble. It's like, no, you're not. You're a fucking loser.
But here's the thing: when you're doing a business where you're making money, but it's not benefiting anybody else in any way, you're not actually taking responsibility for other people. You don't actually have something that you're standing for that requires human power to grow, something real, right? Because anything actually valuable within the context of doing what is best for all, it requires you to communicate and influence other people. And if you're not doing that, then you're not actually doing anything real. But that's where, if you're doing a business, for example, you're making money in Forex, you're making money in crypto, you're making money in e-com, you're making money in whatever business that doesn't require you to really become a great communicator with other people and support them to grow and become better, whether it be in relationships, their money management, right? Like how many people with their business colleagues are supporting them with like their emotional problems or their emotional challenges, their relationship challenges, all that stuff. Those are the people who are just focused on their own thing, who can fake humility really easily because they don't have to influence anybody. But let that be the reflection of
their
what
lack of success as humility.
Exactly. They can confuse their lack of doing anything worth influencing other people over for humility. They're confusing this is not valuable enough to share with other people because it'll actually support them. Therefore, I'm humble. They're not actually thinking that, but that's what they're confusing, right? It's like, oh, I kind of keep my, how much money I make or what I have to myself. It's like, okay, cool. So you're not trying to influence anybody to better their lives.
At the
Right,
same
because
time,
if you
there's-
listen to your wish is your command, the first lesson is who do you listen to? And what that means is a lot of people take it as, oh, I should listen to X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, yeah, but also Kevin is explaining, he's telling you who people listen to. So
That's when I noticed.
Influential, you need to fucking listen, realize people are going to listen to you if you have what they want and you've been where they're at. Otherwise, they won't relate to you. But more importantly, if you have what they want. I mean, how many fucking people bought into Ty Lopez because he had a Ferrari
Right.
in a garage?
And he read
And he
books.
rented.
Right.
Right.
It's on the last call that we were on, right? Kian shared that point of like when going to the gin events, just being a consumer versus actually having something to give, right? That's when I realized my shift from being just a consumer to being a producer, a creator, is when I listened to your wishes, your command. And because Avery or Cameron gave me that perspective, I was like, oh shit, don't just consume what he's saying, become equal to Kevin Trudeau. Build something like Kevin's building because he actually cares.
isn't
He's
that the
actually
case?
worth putting himself on the line, putting his name on the line, everybody calling him a scam and putting him in jail, all that stuff, so he can create something real and influence other people. Because he could have just stayed in the infomercial business and just did his own fucking thing and be like, yeah, fuck it. Who cares if people, you know what I'm saying? He already had money. He
For
already
sure.
had money.
Right.
there's a
And he
huge
could have sold
distinction.
anything, nothing that was beneficial. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say there is a big distinction though that's like being made, and that's like this long-term gain versus short-term gratification,
Mhm.
which is like what the micro and at the macro level is really happening. Like right now, everyone's looking for that instant gratification, which is why they're not
Yeah.
creating anything real, which is even goes back to the example with COVID that you were saying, Asif, like no one's looking for any sort of long-term gain that's actually beneficial. Everyone's just looking to feel good about themselves right now. And I think this is what really distinguishes self-perfected. It's like, yeah, we're not looking for no like instant gratification or short-term gain. It's all about the long term because we're actually building something that's real. And that's what also turns people off as well, is the fact that like a true definition of character is like, persisting,
Following through. Yeah.
on like a decision after the feelings and all that stuff has gone away, right? Because it's like, yeah, doing something real is gonna like not feel good all the time because you're
Right.
gonna have days where you're not,
That's such a good point. It's like anytime I'm speaking, I'm never like, yo, join us and tomorrow you'll get rich. But that's why it's you have to be
That's why
very
crypto is such an easy sell. Like
Exactly. Right, exactly. That's such a good point. It's like you can't just sell somebody on like, look how much money I made. You could do the same thing. Just sign up right now, and then it's never like that, right? I'm always like, this is gonna be really fucking hard.
Dude, when Cam was sharing Technotutor with me over the phone, he was like, all right, so just slow down. Let's slow down here. Because I was like, oh, I think I really want this. He's like, well, would you still want to do this if it took you 7 years? And I was like, fuck yeah. But it was such an interesting question. Like the way that he asked it, it was almost as if he was like telling me, look, I don't want you to get this unless, you're really committed. And I was like, well, fuck, I want it even more now, But yeah, it's at least from my entry into this, consistently, it's always been, you're going to have to put in work. And we're looking long-term, What are you going to say, Kevin?
Yeah, it's easy to sell somebody on a short term. It's not hard because you just basically lie and you just say everything they want to hear.
lose weight in 30 days.
You have to become better. You have
right.
You have to be
and gain
better
it back in the next 30 days, right?
to sell the truth. You have to be better to sell the truth.
Yeah.
And that's really, at the end of the day, what is the measurement of this process for a person of self-perfection is your ability to sell other people and the world on changing where you're not going to see the results right away, but according to
Oh shit, dude. That whoever he punched on the street came back and punched him back. Are you still there, Cameron? It cut out.
It dropped out a little bit.
Here, I'll tell you this really thing. Hear me?
It's a little bit
Yeah,
choppy.
it's getting choppy now.
You guys talk. I'll just listen for a minute. Fine.
Okay.
Here's an important point on how, yes, it does take time to build something that's real, right? This isn't some crypto thing where you're going to make all this money overnight. And what we're about with
Yeah, but not everybody who does crypto makes money overnight. Just saying.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good point.
You got me excited there, Mitch. You got me really excited.
Good
I
point.
was about to invest.
What I've seen with these tools we have specifically, not some other bullshit course, not some other thing, specifically TechnoTutor, using it every day. And then using what we talk about in Self-Perfected. So self-forgiveness, connecting with like-minded people, those tools specifically. Yes, it takes time right away when you're starting and you're realizing all the bullshit that's going on inside. And after a few months, it's like, whoa, something's different. But now that I'm a year and a half into it and I do it every single day and I apply myself every single day, the results are insane. Like, it just reminded me of that quote where, I don't know who said it, but it's like people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 5 years. With TechnoTutor, from my experience so far, and with the other people I know, is like we overestimate what'll happen in the first few months, but you underestimate around the year mark. And if you do it consistently for a year, it's like it's this cumulative thing. And now I just see so clearly what Jess and I have here locally, and these people just coming out of nowhere, joining us. And like over the past week, okay, Asif, 2 weeks ago we talked, and you're explaining to me how you're explaining how, because
Secrets,
us as
dude.
beings,
Keep that private. No, I'm just...
everyone needs to know this. As a being, we naturally create opportunity. It's just part of being alive, is you just create opportunity. And that really, when you said it, it clicked. I put it in my TechnoTutor, so I knew it on a deep level. And even 1 week ago or 2 weeks ago, I would look ahead at my week and I'm like, okay, I see these things are happening. I got this in the books, but like, there's a lot of open space in my calendar. Okay, I know what to do, so I'm just applying myself every day. And bam, out of nowhere, I had in the past 2 weeks, I've had basically 4 brand new people I did not know 2 weeks ago that are now possibly really key players in everything we're doing. Like, you can just tell the questions they're asking. They're like, I've been looking for this. I've been listening to the podcast. I'm like, damn. And this is the past 2 weeks. Okay, my first 2 weeks of using TechnoTutor, that was not happening. But in the first 2 weeks, things were shifting. But it's like, that's the power of these tools. Like, what other business or company are people still hype about 2 years later or a year and a half later?
More
like,
hype, yeah.
All these crypto people, it's like, okay, for 4 months, I'm going to do it. And then, I'm on to the Forex thing now, right? Oh, different, right? Shiny object. With TechnoTutor, it's like, it keeps getting better. Self-perfected, all the hangouts keep getting better. So
I think that's a causation from us performing to our highest action potential. And that kind of goes to what Cam was talking about, but in just phrased differently, where in each individual moment, are you living up to your highest action potential, like the most action potential in that moment? Or like, did you get to the 1? Yeah. Anything less than the 1 is literally fucking 0, because you didn't see all, maybe you weren't aware of all the factors, maybe you weren't aware of your own reactions, like there's just like something you missed, right? Or maybe you saw it and you just decided not to. So in a moment, you saw yourself scrolling on social media and you decided to keep scrolling and stop. So it's like, in each individual moment, you can live out your fullest potential in that moment. That's not to say that within your lifetime, what your potential is for your life. It's in this moment, with where you're at, you can live up to your fullest potential. And that's hitting the mark. So it's not only every day, it's literally every moment. And because we've made that decision, Mitchell and I added that into our relationship agreement of holding each other to that standard. Every day, your full potential is a different mark than what it was the day before. Even in this morning, my fullest potential was a different mark than what it is right now. And that bar keeps getting raised. And there's just more potential within each and every moment because we're doing more, we're taking on more responsibility, we're aware of more things, we're able to process more things. Like we're just continuing to expand.
Because you're literally building, you're growing, you're becoming more. So you should be capable of more. It makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If Cameron's out, Cameron, you gonna say something? Or?
Yeah. Oh, man, there's just so many points.
Yeah.
I like what Jess was saying, because it's like when you take responsibility, you create something, right?
Mhm.
And then now, because you've created something, and when I say create, I just mean you put relationships together, right? So let's say you have a business, okay? In the beginning, it's just you, okay? Let's talk about Technotier. Like you're a distributor, right? So it's just you. You're out there. You're generating leads. You're talking to people. You're showing them Technotutor. You're following up. You're closing them. You're dealing with all that stuff. But then eventually, what happens, especially if you're an area distributor, but even a licensed distributor, you can do this too. But the point is, you start to get people underneath you in terms of you're working with them, salespeople and so forth, right? And now it's like you have a team that you're leading. That's a different level of responsibility. I mean, it's kind of obvious, right? But the things where you would have compromised when it was just you can't compromise anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's like, if something happened that day and you felt bad about it, and blah, 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 and then you spent like 3 days like dwelling on it and so forth, that would have flown.
I'm gonna skip the team meeting. You know what? I'm not gonna have it.
Right, exactly. Like, yeah, not show up for the meeting, canceled, whatever it is. But when you have other people and you realize like they're looking to you for that stability, because they're new, they haven't walked what you have. You can't compromise anymore. Especially if you're a parent, you have children, or you have a wife or a husband. It's the same thing. You can't compromise anymore. Because I looked at it for myself. Like if I'm being weak, and again, I think I talked last podcast what I mean when I say weak. I think it was. But if I'm being weak, then it's like I look at it. I look at it through Katie's eyes. Like, who is she seeing right now? Is that somebody she would respect? And it doesn't mean I'm doing things to please her. It's just a way of sort of being objective for a moment about myself, right? Like, is what I'm doing, if I look at the distributors or the other people in our group or whatever it is, if they're looking at me, what are they getting from it? What
Right.
excuses would they be able to accept and allow in themselves because, well, Cameron, Y or Z. And so I know I've grown. And when I say grown, obviously, I was thinking about this when you were making that point, Jess, about the action potential. The way I would say for myself, like, how do I measure my own growth or process? Just to put it another way, is, am I compromising in my principles or not? So it's like if I were to stand in front of the UN and argue for an equal money system, how much pressure would have to be applied for me to crack? What would they try to take away from me or leverage against me in order for me to back down? And so like at the moment, it's like if you can't even get out of bed because your own ego can leverage not feeling good for a moment to get you to compromise on getting up this morning and finding someone to influence or support or do whatever particular practical things you need to do, like, how are you ever going to stand at a higher level where the pressure is more? And another thing too, like us moving out to this rural area, it's different. It's a different level of responsibility. And Jeff, you grew up in that kind of environment, so you know what I'm talking about. It's a different level of responsibility than when you live in a city.
Absolutely.
I mean, when we got there, just for fun, I looked up DoorDash because I would get DoorDash not like every day, but quite often, you know, when it's like, it's just so convenient. And it's like, oh, been on the phone all day. Katie was working on stuff. Okay, let's just get some DoorDash, you know, whatever, right? We do that for dinner or something sometimes. I looked it up, DoorDash, when we got to where we are, and it was like showing 0 restaurants delivering to your area. And I was like, oh, that's different, right? Like versus like 10,000 or whatever, you know, in Houston.
Right.
And so that's just one example, you know, like today, I was debating whether I would tell this story or not. We were going to go into town to get some things, which we ended up actually doing. But right before we were about to leave the house, Seneca spilled a bunch of water on the ground. Like she poured a water bottle on the ground and she was just playing, you know, and afterwards I talked to her about it, but she poured some water on the ground and it wouldn't normally be a big deal, but it's like a wood floor. So you got to clean up right away. Right. So I just said, hey, Cindy, that's the wood floor. You can't do that. That's not that. She was like, oh, and you can tell she was like, oh, like she didn't consider that. Right. But in any case, as soon as I saw the water was spilled, I went into the bathroom because I knew there was a towel laying across like this kind of towel sort of bench that's in the bathroom near the tub. I picked it up, you know, and I kind of put my hand, like, you know, it was like draped over something. So I put my hand underneath it to hold it. And I felt something sharp in my finger. And I was like, it was so weird because at first I was kind of like, that's weird. Like, what's under there? Like, did I pick, was like their glass? I lifted up the towel to see what was on my hand. And there was a spider the size of my hand under the towel. And I like threw the towel and I was like, there's this moment, like the image of that spider flashed in my mind. And this program like ran through my mind all in that moment of now I can never trust anything in this house. Like I can't let the kids ever pick up anything, or we can't sleep under the covers. There's no, like, you can't trust anything. Like this program flashed through my mind of like this fear of that whole concept just flashed through my mind. Right.
Yeah.
So I was just standing there and I started breathing. Right. And I was kind of like talking out loud to myself, like talking myself down, because I was like, you know, reactive towards this, like, fuck, I just got bit by a spider. And I was like saying out loud, I was like, okay, it's all right. It's not a big deal. It's all right. I was just talking to myself, right? And Katie, like the kids heard me and Katie heard me and they all came in the room and they're like, are you okay? Is everything okay? And I was like, I was still a little bit excited. So I didn't want to say something about what was going on in that excitement, but I also didn't want to act like, you know, just come right over, not a big deal. So I was just like, just hold on a moment. Like and Cindy was trying to walk over towards where the towel was. So I was like, no, Cindy, go over there. And I was like, it's not a big deal. It's all right. And then after I kind of was calm, I was like, I told Kate, I was like, there's just a spider under that towel. So I don't want the kids to go, no, because I don't know what kind of spider it is. Right. So she was like, well, like, were you bit? I was like, yeah, it definitely bit me. That's how I knew. Right. And so we picked up the towel, we put it into like one of these, like, you know, kind of like a big 5-gallon bucket or whatever. And put it in there. And I kind of shook it out into the bucket to see what it was. I mean, it was a big spider. I put a picture of it on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And then I immediately was like, okay, I don't know what kind of spider. I've never seen that kind of spider before. We didn't have those in Houston. So I get on my phone and, you know, I get some level of internet, like barely out in the front yard right now, because we're getting like a new service or whatever put in. And I looked up like, okay, spiders in Texas or something like that, just to see what it was, right? And the first image or the first search result was 5 most dangerous spiders in Texas. And there was a picture of a spider that looked very similar to that one, right? And it was in that moment that, was it that? It was, I want to say it was that moment. Yeah, it was that moment right there where suddenly all this fear like rushed through my body. Like I started feeling dizzy. And my arms started tingling.
Oh,
right?
I think that's.
And I was like,
you're like turning into Spider-Man, right?
Dude, no, that happened to me when I got my vaccine.
Hold on, well, that was my punchline, right? So that's how I got into a
you
roof
took
this
his
morning.
punchline. Shit.
Oh, wait, no, I'm kidding. No, but like I got all this fear like rushing through me, and I started like I just breathed, you know, like just like breathing, right? And I was like, well, I still need to know what this is, right? So I clicked on the link, and the actual spider in the picture wasn't even in the description.
Wow.
So I kept doing some research, just looking through it, and then I found the spider beyond a shadow of a doubt what it was. It's a garden wolf spider, which is not a venomous spider. I mean, they bite,
not.
but it didn't. It did, you know, what's funny is it didn't actually hurt that much. It felt like I don't even know. It just felt like something kind of like pricked my finger, like a little tiny little prick. But that's why I wasn't startled when it happened. But when I picked up the blanket, I was just like, what was that? Then I was like, whoa, shit. Like, cause this thing was massive, right? So anyways, in that moment, when I saw, okay, it's this kind of spider, it's not a big deal. Cause Katie was like, you need to go to the hospital. Like, cause we'd never dealt with something like that, right? But I just kept breathing, right? And then the reason I'm giving all the context is so someone can see, like,
Did you suck out the
all of us-
venom?
There's
Even
no
though
venom.
I don't, there is no venom from that spider. But if you didn't know what kind of spider it was, you could have possibly had venom. And so, did you think that you wanted to, like, did that come across your mind of like, oh, I gotta suck this venom?
That wasn't even a thought. It was like just immediately, what spider is it? Maybe, and I'll take it with me or something. You know what I mean?
That would have been my first thing. As soon as I felt that and saw the spider, I would have been like,
Noted. Let me take my survival note.
get it out.
In any case, I was thinking, well, okay, I need to trap it, you know, so I can take it with me or something, right? But once I realized, okay, it's not a big deal. It's just a wolf spider. Because we have wolf spiders in Houston, but they're very small. Like, they're usually in the grass. And we had them even when I lived in Austin. This one was just bigger than anyone I'd ever seen before. Anyways, what was interesting was then the kids came out and they wanted to see what was in the bucket. So I was like, look, it's this big spider. But by then I was breathing, I was calm, I wasn't like reacting to the point. It's like I already made a decision that this isn't a big deal. Right? And I put some video online so people could see it. Seneca standing next to the bucket, looking at the spider, talking to it, going like, "Oh, look at this beautiful spider," or whatever she was saying. Hey, look at the spider, right? And they were like, I like put a quarter down next to it to show them I'm not afraid of it, you know, to like see, so they could put a size comparison in the picture or whatever. And I said to them, I said, look, this spider, it doesn't want to bite me. It wouldn't normally bite me. But I put my hand under the blanket and
Oh, dude, the spider's back.
not biting me. It's not afraid of me. It's normally, it's not, and I'm just showing them this is not something to be afraid of. And I told them, and I apologized to him. I said, I reacted, right? And I was explaining to him, like, I have to still walk through my own reactions, right? So then after all that was fine, right? We took some pictures. I took, you know, after everything was settled, you know, they wanted to see it. I took it out, like, away from the house, and I let it go into like a bush, right? And took another picture in the bush with it. And then I came back inside, and we were about to go, and I was like, hey, wait, before we go, I said, I need to do some techno tutor. Right. So I was like, let me have a few minutes. Let me go into my office on my computer and let me do some techno tutor on this point. And Max came to my office before I'd sat down, and he came to the door, and I came over there and I was like, what's up? He goes, are you going to do some techno tutor? I said, yeah. And he goes, okay, I'm going to do some too. And he said, here's what you need to do. You need to do, I am not afraid of spiders.
Oh shit.
I am not afraid of spiders, and the word spider. Right. And I was like, well, that makes sense. I said, that is what I was going to do. He was like, cool. That's what I was going to do too.
Like father.
Right? So he went with Katie and did their techno tutor, and they did spiders and all this stuff. And then I sat and he was like, just do those three. I was like, well, I'm going to do more. It ended up being like something like 100. So he did his thing, right, with Katie. But, you know, and then it was like, okay, it's not a big deal. Like, I don't need to and the only reason I'm telling you right now is just to give also an example of the point. I don't need to dramatize it. I don't need to go online and be like, hey, everybody, I got bit by a spider. Oh my God, can you believe it? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Right? I mentioned it to one person because they were saying like, oh, you don't need to kill those kind of spiders. And I said, yeah, I agree with you. This is actually a picture of me taking it outside after it bit me. So no, we're not into like just killing spiders for no reason. And it turns out these spiders, so I got to learn something. These spiders don't make webs. So they just crawl around. And probably it was just nice and cool under that towel. And maybe it was some moisture in there or whatever, right?
Oh, they're
But
sad.
the point is,
That spider was trying to download your residence, dude.
They don't need webs to kill their prey. They're like, I'm gonna jump on the prey, motherfuckers. Watch out.
Yeah. But it's my point is, like, it really wasn't a big deal, right? And then I got to learn and look up, like, okay, so what spiders are actually venomous? Which ones do we need to be aware of? And then it turns out most of the ones that can actually hurt you, they can't even really pierce your skin anyways. So it's like, if you got bit by them, yes, you must seek medical attention because they have like very venomous toxins, like a brown recluse or a black widow. But the likelihood of you being bit by them is very low, right? And so anyways, it was just a really cool point to walk through. And another point that came up, I was like, okay, I can't just float through life. I can't just grab a towel and it doesn't mean I need to be afraid of every fucking towel and like look at under everything and, like be paranoid about it. It's not about paranoia, but I need to be aware of what I'm doing. I need to be aware of my environment, because what if I had flung the towel right in the kid's face? You know what I mean? And now that I know that this spider is not venomous, if that spider bit me again, I'd be like, oh, that hurts. And it doesn't even really hurt. You know what I mean? But my point is, I would just be aware, like, okay, I don't need to like flip out and start running around or something, right? So it was just a cool point because, and again, this is going back to what we were talking about earlier. It's in the moment that conflict arises. Am I going back to the principles? Or is it like, oh, here's a great opportunity to dwell on some issues or make a big deal or make drama or get attention or get some energy or just get off on feeling afraid and like, oh my God, and like, or is it like, okay, something occurred, go back to principles, direct the point. I was more concerned about the kids not developing a fear of the environment that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That, not that it's like about one thing is more important to be concerned about, but that is an important thing, right? It's so when you have kids, not just about you anymore, right? There's lots of different points. And so, Katie obviously was very stable. She didn't start freaking out going, oh my God, it's got bit by a spider. Oh my God, when you go to the hospital, Cameron's going to die. Everybody get in the car. Like that's maybe what one of our parents would have done. Right? So this is also the importance of having a partner, meaning a husband, wife, who's walking these principles, because, in the beginning, you're not both going to be stable if you're both brand new to these points, but that's what you develop over time as a point of trust, where when one person is going through something, the other person can be there and be stable and be like, let's bring it back. Let's be clear. Let's stabilize and so forth. Right. Because these things are going to come up. Like you can't go into a point of creating a paranoia where you then are like, I'm going to kill every spider that I see. It's like, no, because they actually kill a lot of the insects that we don't want. They help manage the garden. Apparently they're very good for gardening. So we just wanted to, and isn't that what we do as humans? We just go into paranoia and start just killing everything. Yeah,
true.
You know what I mean? We just go in to start killing everything that's like any kind of threat whatsoever, and then things become imbalanced, right? Right. So, and then you create poisons, and there's a lot of speculation that a lot of the quote diseases that we see in other countries is not really these viruses and stuff. It's actually the chemicals that they spray, the DDT and shit, to kill the mosquitoes that they say are the responsible for the viruses. But then you have things like microcephaly and shit, which is side effects of DDT poisoning. Remember this whole thing with Zika?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Ironic, because when we went to, actually, I was thinking it was when we went to Mexico last time. It was actually the first time. I remember when we saw you guys, you were there. I ask you every time. Every time I bring up that trip, I always ask you if you were there because I still can't remember. But
no, it's because
that first time we went to Mexico with Jen, right? People all around us were like, "Don't go, Zika. There's Zika. There's Zika. There's Zika." Because Katie was pregnant with Max, right? You're gonna get microcephaly and all this shit, and we were just like, well, we looked into it, and you're like, guys, I don't think it's the fucking Zika virus. And then obviously we've walked our process more and we know what viruses really are and everything. And it's like, oh shit, everybody's getting fucking scammed. Just so Monsanto can fucking sell their weed killer and shit. Wow. I'm gonna let you guys talk. I'm gonna wrap it up for me because I have to go in here. I'm at this store. I actually got to talk a little bit longer than I expected because I went north instead of south. So I almost drove to Oklahoma. I'm glad I actually realized. I might have ended up in Arkansas. I'm not sure which, but yeah, but now I'm at the Lowe's, so I'm here to get some stuff for the house or whatever. But I wanted to pop in and say hi to everybody. But I'm gonna watch the when you guys upload the podcast Tuesday.
That's great.
I'm looking forward to that. Hey, and I'm really glad to see you on here too, Christine.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
Oh, now he can see.
Yeah.
Now he can see.
we hope you find the right door.
Yeah,
Okay, do it.
yeah,
hope you
I'm
found the
gonna
right
open
door.
a lot of doors right now. Yeah. All right,
Thanks,
guys,
man.
have fun. I'll see y'all later.
See you, dude.
That story is a really good story in the context of self-perfection. The word perfection is the process of removing faults. And the main differentiator is whether you're living perfection or you're not. Are you in the process of removing your faults or not? Because the resonant reaction, when I say resonant, I mean it's like the structural physical point. You're going to have to face that reaction in other people. There are some reactions that you cannot avoid. And if you go into the fear point of, oh, if I say, like Drake was saying, if I say best for all, this person might react. Yes, that's what we're here to do, to support people through their reactions.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing with self-perfected, because all of us, because of the system that we've been a part of, where people are, the system crushes our natural learning ability. So we no longer feel and we no longer can change. Like we literally can't change. And we also feel like we can't change subconsciously. Dude, what is going on down there? Are they time traveling? You see them jumping back and forth?
Yeah, I have no idea what's happening with their screen.
They're like switching clothes, switching sides, right? Then Jess is wearing the hat and Mitch's glasses, and then she's gone now. Jeez. But see you later. But the fuck, dude, I lost it.
No. I
Okay.
remember what you were saying.
The main point being subconsciously and unconsciously being your physical structure, like your literal arrangement of neurology. Mitch is like SOSing out here, like, guys, I don't know if we're gonna make it to the rest of this. Our internet's not gonna make it. I hope it freezes it on a beautiful smile of his. That'd be great. But here's the main point. When our brain physiologically is not in a neuroplastic state where it can be in change mode, it's in maintain mode, which is the system inside of us. Like the world system of inequality inside of us, of maintain what we have, don't change anything, right?
Yeah.
And the reflection of that is when we say self-perfected, when they see self-perfected, it is the idea that, hey, there's a better version of yourself that you should not just aspire to be, but work on every single day.
Yeah.
But if somebody believes subconsciously and unconsciously, because of their brain structure, because they're not using TechnoTutor to reopen the natural learning ability or to support your brain to get back in a liquid or neuroplastic state, they believe they can't change. So why would they accept an idea of self-perfection, or that self-perfection is even possible, if they're like, I'm not going to be able to walk it? Of course they're going to fight you on it.
Two things here. One was, well, I forgot both of them. But one of them was something. It was something. Now, when you're saying like you're fighting for maintaining, like a really practical example of that is like if you don't have enough to make the rent, or just like pay the bills, like those people are like fighting to just like, I just need to make they can't think beyond that. They can't think creatively. They can't go anywhere that's like actually going to expand and grow them. They can only maintain what they have. And it's a terrible position to be in, because your brain literally shuts down other parts, the creative parts where you can be free and like, really push yourself and grow and stuff. And then the other thing, I forgot what you were saying. You were saying something that triggered something.
I definitely saw the cognition when I was talking about maintaining the system inside of you.
Yeah.
I don't know what the second point would have been. Yeah.
Oh, well, it'll come up later.
Well, here's like in terms of like thematically speaking, the reason why it's 0 or 1, binary. Notice how we're all moving away from binary. and it's all subjective. There's literally infinite opportunity between 0 and 1. Forget about 0 and 1. What about 0.1 and 0.11 and 0.1111 and 0.1? There's literally infinite possibility. You'll never get anywhere if you fall into the system. It's designed to keep you the same by manipulating you into don't be 1 or 0. Don't quit doing drugs, right? Be open to it. Maybe once a month, not a big deal. It's like, it's always playing on this point of, yeah, but socially speaking, right? You need to go do
That
it.
was the second point. Because you had said about being better than we were, right? It's not about being better, like, and you're saying better every day, right? But this point that you're bringing up right here can be abused in that way, as far as being better. Oh, well, I'm just this 0.1% better. You brought this up on Friday, and I thought it was fucking beautiful. How many numbers are between 1 and 2, right? That was such a beautiful point. It's infinite.
My math guy.
Like, I loved it because
I
it
said it for you, dude.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, if there's nobody else on that fucking hangout, I always said it.
Whole numbers. If you're
Oh.
dealing with whole numbers, then
It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work.
Nah,
like-
we tried. That was good. That was really, like, you had us there for, like, whole numbers.
Just explain. Yeah, I think it jumped into your idea after it already began, but the internet is too poo-poo. It's too doo-doo-cack.
Yeah.
Christine, come on. But so yeah, Drake, go, like, were you gonna?
But it's not about just being better.
Hmm.
It's not about just being better or just a little bit better. No, it's like, that is not the measure. We were just discussing this, like, yesterday. Like, be as effective as you possibly can be
Right.
every day. Like, which means you got to be the best, and that, like, you have to be your absolute best, not just better, best. And that takes so much. And that is that point that Mitch and Jess were making earlier of, like, you can get to 99%. That's still not setting off that trigger of that boom, that action potential, that, hey, we made it. See you guys.
You're gone.
See you gone.
But you know what? The way the mathematical rule of thumb to follow is round down to the nearest number.
There you go.
Round down to the nearest number.
Yeah.
The cool part, like, I'm trying to specify it to a greater degree so that we can be clear. The way you should get better every day is by giving 100% every day. But what will take time or increment is the result. That's the compounding effect.
Yeah.
You give 100% every day, and your results slowly build on each other.
Yeah.
Not, I'll do a little more. I'll do a little more. That will take you. You'll never make it in this lifetime.
Right. Man, that's such a good. Okay, here's why would somebody not give 100% every day?
Don't want to change. Don't want to. What was that, Christine?
Because they don't feel good.
They don't feel. Yeah.
Right.
And you were saying,
They don't want to change. They don't want to take more responsibility. They're afraid of taking on more responsibility.
I think it's really, they don't want to take more responsibility, because look,
Yeah.
if you go 100% today, then what does that leave for tomorrow? It's like, oh fuck, like, I already used up all my resources on my
True.
shit.
Yeah.
Right.
You ever have that in school where you're like, I set my expectations low, so even if I don't do well, I've still got my expectation. But if I do greater, then awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember I was talking with this girl, like, a year ago, or maybe even longer. But I remember I'd asked her, like, hey, what are your dreams? What are your goals? And she's like, no dreams, no goals. And I was like, what? Why? And she's like, I don't want to have any expectations. I don't want to be let down. So no dreams, no goals. I was like, oh, so you're just living out of fear. You're just afraid.
Okay, Drake.
But isn't that the case, right?
100%.
It's like, okay, if I have no dreams, no expectations, no goals, when I don't meet them, I won't feel bad.
That's so true.
But you're not living for anything. You're just kind of like, I'm just gonna go along. Please don't hurt me. Please. Oh.
I faced that too. Like, as we were taking on more responsibility within Technotutor, it's like, oh, dude. So eventually, like, I'm gonna have to support people. Like, people are gonna be like, ask me a question, and then based off what I say, they might do something. I don't want to take on that responsibility. That's scary. What if I say something wrong? What about the fear started coming up, right? But it's exactly the point that well, when Cameron was talking about, it's kind of like a point of no return when you start taking on more responsibility. When you have a child, for example, it's like, there's no going back, you know?
Yeah.
And that's that point of fear is like, if I push myself to 100, okay, there's the 2 points. So we're talking about taking responsibility. And then there's also setting, like hitting a goal where if you go 100% today and tomorrow you don't go 100%, you're gonna feel like shit. So, you know, you're expanding what you're capable of. And then once you do that, it's like, you always know what you're capable of. So you'll always be acutely aware of how you're limiting yourself.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to justify limitation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I want to make that a little more practical. It's like, if you go all out, you wake up at 6 a.m., you go hard till 12 p.m. and 12 a.m. and you get 6 hours sleep and you have an awesome day and you show that you can be productive every day. You don't give in to your Facebook urges or your Instagram or your Twitter or check the news urges. You don't give in to the entertainment. You don't give in to people talking shit. You don't give in to gossip. You don't give in to any of those things. Then what you just proved to yourself is, wow, I can overcome my addictions. I can overcome my limitations. Meaning the fear being that, wait, does that mean I can never do those things again? Because if I do, I can't use the excuse of, oh, but it's too hard. So then we just stay within. And the fact of the matter is, what I just explained is not a conscious thinking process. It's happening outside of your awareness, all those decisions. And so the other point being taking on more responsibility, I'm really glad you brought that up. That's the main fear.
Yeah.
Is like, because if you take on more responsibility, there's going to be some point where you're at a point where, I mean,
you brought it up.
well, okay, well, you were emphasizing it. Like, what's the number one reason that girl wouldn't want to?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, that's why men and women today don't want to have children.
Ooh, yeah.
Don't bring up all the smoke screen reasons of, right?
Reducing my carbon footprint.
Right, exactly. They're looking for any fucking reason, but really it's, I don't think I'm going to be a good parent because I have nothing to show for myself and I'm not proud of who I am today. And I don't want to put that into a child and I don't want to raise them in a shitty world and all that stuff. Right. It's like the real part is the first part. It's like, I'm a piece of shit and I don't think I'm going to be able to handle this responsibility. And 100%. I know that because that's where I was at.
100%. And what's really interesting, like you laugh at that carbon footprint thing, but like seriously, people.
No, you're actually right.
People are shaming each other now. Yeah. Like, oh, you had how could you have a child? Like, how dare you almost?
This climate.
Yeah, right. Like, excuse me, but like, where like literally being biologically, I don't know, just like doing things that like give life is being questioned now. You know, like, oh, I went outside and I didn't suffocate myself. Oh, how dare you?
Don't you care about people? Yeah, I care about myself equal to other people. I would actually suggest you take off your mask because it's also not good for you.
Right. I didn't inject myself. Like, oh, I don't know if I could be around you. Like, people are, they're acting, again, what you were bringing up, this point of like moving away from this binary. And the binary is like, it's so, you know what it is? When you have a binary, it's either on or off, right? There's a distinction. There's definition. It's clearly defined.
You can say that would be good and that would be bad.
Right. But when it's all fuzzy, when it's like really like unclear.
50 Shades of Grey, baby. But you know what I mean? Conceptually.
Yeah, but exactly. What happens is like, well, it's all a gray area. It's all a gray area. Oh, well, you know.
It's not that simple, Drake. You can't just provide for everybody.
Right. You can't. So you don't have to be responsible. You don't have to actually do anything about it.
It's better you just stick to you and I'm going to stick to me.
Yeah.
Right? Christine, what's going on in that big brain of your sister?
Even though I just like, I'm thinking of this point of like this, you know, not anything being clearly defined because it just creates all that like it just sounds like you're confused.
Are you talking into the mic on your head? I don't think it's that.
No,
we're talking.
I thought you were like, yeah, like the microphone. Right?
It just sounds like you're confused.
True.
You know, like which at the end of the day, like that's just the more easy way to manipulate people because there's so many, you know,
options, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
No, you know, it's a great point. You know how KT talks about like when you're at the buffet, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if he brings up the point of like not choosing, but do you guys remember that Netflix Master of None? Did you guys ever watch that?
No.
Aziz Ansari.
No.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that.
So he basically within that, and it doesn't even matter. He tells a story in there of some author, I forget who, but the story of she's staring at a fig tree, and each fig represented a possibility, a direction that she can go with her life. And as she was considering, I could be an astronaut, I could be a figure skater, I could be this, and she just spent this time in thinking about the different possibilities, and they want to make the right decision, the perfect decision. They wait too long, the figs slowly start to dry up and die, and she becomes old. And all those possibilities start dying off as she gets older. She falls against the tree and dies. And that's the end of it. She never made up her mind. That's where we are at as a society. We've reduced everybody. We used to have this point of, and I used to judge it, but now I'm like, damn, like we don't even have that of like everybody. It's automatically programmed of you get a good job, you start a family, get a house.
Right.
And I used to be like, man, everyone's so programmed. Like there's more to life than that, right?
Right.
There is more to life than that. But that's a great point of stability. It's a great foundation to
It's a
have,
good
right?
start.
Right? Move out, find a partner, start a family, right? We're not even there anymore. Don't have kids.
Don't move out.
Exactly. Don't even move out. Don't even get married, right? You don't have to get locked down to one person, all that stuff. Now it's like, okay, all right, okay. I don't even know if I'm a boy or girl anymore.
It's like this fear of missing out though. You know, it's like I have to have all these options, you know, so for the possibility that I could do this and that and experience this and experience that, right? Meanwhile, it's like that, but you do need at some point of stability or foundation to set yourself certain within yourself.
Right.
Because otherwise then you're just going to be lost all through life, which is what you're really seeing. Like people just making decisions now based on like, they feel like they're running out of time because like you see people getting into bad relationships, starting families when they're really not stable.
Right.
So it's like, it's just a hot mess of consequences that are being built up.
Yeah. And it's such a good point because that's like a consequence. I'm really glad you brought the fear of missing out point because that's such a good fear that people use. But this is where we're all fucked up. The value and satisfaction and fulfillment of life comes from picking something and becoming an expert at it, going deep into one relationship rather than having a bunch of romantic relationships.
Really, the definition of decision is even like to cut off, like the Latin translation, I believe. So it's like literally you're cutting off.
Oh, you're a techno tutor, sister.
I actually knew that before techno tutor, but it's always stuck with me.
No, that's really
techno tutor just made it, you know, integrated with it myself.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
Expand on that, sister.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, like, when you make a decision, it just allows you to become more focused on whatever it is that you want to work on or build or create. But it's like, it's because I'm seeing this point coming up within someone else I'm supporting. It's like this fear of like not of focusing on one thing because they feel like they have all these ideas they want to explore and experience. But it's like, well, eventually you're going to have to pick something if you really want to start building and creating whatever it is you want for your life and become, right? So it's, again, it's just coming back to like, I don't know, this fear of like either missing out, fear of like the responsibility of whatever that's going to take. And then, there's like, it's like this fear of like missing out on those other possibilities, but you don't even know what those possibilities now because now you're in that paralysis of analysis or whatever that's called, where like you're just paralyzed now within and not taking any sort of action.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's all in this like what if thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've only ever thought of the what if as some fear, right? Like what if something bad happens? But there's also the fear of missing out. Like, what if I don't do that? And then that would have been great. It's like, who cares? It was actually a really tricky point that I wasn't even processing at first, but Kevin Trudeau talking about he might have a multi-million-dollar opportunity, $1 billion opportunity come across his desk and he'll say no because he's focused on what he's doing. When I first would listen to that, I'd be like, that's stupid. What the guy's stupid. because I didn't realize, oh, he's trying to, he's here to create something specific.
Yeah.
Not about that one dimension of how much money, how much fun is it going to be?
Right.
Because fun.
And what people get tripped up on is like when you do cut off, it's like you actually do expand other opportunities, because it's like you don't know what you don't know. 99% of what you don't, like 99% of what you do know is what you don't know actually. So like, you know, you're only looking at your radar screen. So when you do then decide something, it's like, well, if you are open to the possibility of then, okay, this is what I'm going to do, like you don't know what other opportunities are going to come across, but at least you're focused now on this one decision or this one path. Because like it's not to say that like your vision can't evolve, or who you want to become can't evolve. It's like, well, no, like decide. And then because even just the idea of like, well, you try that, and if it doesn't work, okay, great, now I know what I don't want.
Right, exactly. At least
Right?
you're moving forward. A step in
Yeah.
any direction is a
Which is
step in the right direction.
Yeah, which is why people are getting stuck still in that paralysis of analysis. It's like, okay, no, you need to decide at some point.
That's another point of like perfectionism that Cam was talking about. Like, what is it that Patton says? A good plan executed
tomorrow.
No,
sorry. A perfect plan executed tomorrow. No, do the good plan first. A good plan executed right now is always better than
a perfect plan executed tomorrow. Yeah. Right. Because you're always going to be in that state of like, well, it could be perfected. Oh, well, what if this happens? And what if that? And it's like you were saying earlier, like when you have to ask what if, you're not considering like what's actually here. You're allowing your mind to just give you like, oh, well, what if this? And you're projecting, and you're not actually ever taking action. And that's what stops so many people from actually living life in general. Another thing that KT says, like, you learn way more when you go and cook in the kitchen than sitting in or watching these classes or anything like that. And that applies not just to cooking, to literally everything that you could be building or creating in this world, in reality. If you're just sitting there on YouTube learning something, or in a master class learning something, or whatever it is, the hell that you're doing, that like I'm listening to Jim Rohn or Tony Robbins or all these great people, they have lots of great things to say, you know, but if you're just sitting there listening to them and not actually applying any of it, you're not doing anything. You're just wasting time. You're just entertaining yourself. You're no different than anybody who's watching Netflix or binge watching some cartoon or whatever it is, or I don't know, basketball, whatever, doesn't matter.
We have the self-honesty to know that it goes the same thing for this podcast as well.
Oh yeah. 100%. I think you've said it on this podcast before. Just like,
definitely have several times.
Yeah. If you're just listening to this just for entertainment's sake, I mean, what else could you listen to? This is obviously the best thing, but you're not actually a part of it. You're not doing anything. You're not creating, like, do something. There's an action you can take. And the best action to take would be join the self-perfected group, right? And start.
Like and share and subscribe, which we haven't said yet.
Like, share, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. But the best action that you can take is join the self-perfected group and participate in the group. Because that real participation, that's going to start moving things within you so you can challenge that system head on within yourself. And something cool that like an image that popped into my mind when Cam was bringing up like the objection of perfection, right? I was considering there's all these things, like you're saying, if your toaster, you know, you put the same settings on and it's like, you have no idea what it's going to do this time, you throw it out. It's not perfect, right? But even within us, we have these thoughts of things that we want to do, things that we want to create. And we start doing those actions or doing those things. And then as we're like attempting those things, we haven't even gotten there yet. We're attempting those things. All these thoughts come up within us of like these resistances, right? And I kind of see it like, you ever take like a block, and I'm imagining there's a table, right, with a cutout in it, and a block that you're sliding along the top, and you want it to go into the cutout, right? But the block that you're sliding along the top has rough edges. It's got these rough edges that are, it's just too much roughness on the edge for it to actually fit into this incision, into this cutout, right? But if you sand down those edges, right? Or if you continually apply it and, you're trying to get it in, some of these edges are going to be rubbed off. This is how like your practical approach to actually doing the thing that you set out to do. You're trying it, you're attempting it, and you've got these rough edges there. It's too much friction, too much resistance, right? You can't get it that time, but you keep applying yourself over and over and over. And eventually that resistance or that rough edge smooths, right? And you can fit in to what you're trying to do. It fits perfectly. That's how I see perfection. That's like, okay, and so in our own thoughts, the way that plays out, our mind gives us all these resistances. We don't do the thing. That's all this rough edge that comes with the thought of the actual concept, the thing that we want to accomplish. It's enveloped in this roughness of resistance, memories, thoughts, feelings, emotions, et cetera, et cetera. And we just keep applying ourselves till those rough edges either they become non-factors, either because we no longer acknowledge them, we don't feel them anymore, or they're still there, but we do it anyway.
Push through it, yeah.
Exactly. And that's not to say it's a brute force thing. It's a practice. There's a practice of addressing it, challenging it, facing it head on, and recognizing that's not me. That's not valid. And continuing on in spite of, in face of. Yeah.
And so we're not arguing to make, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. We're not arguing to make impulsive decisions. What we're suggesting is get clear as soon as you can and then move. Get as clear as you can, right? Because you're never going to be 100% clear. There's somebody who was sharing, there's a threshold between knowing everything, knowing nothing, and the window that's ideal for you to go forward with a decision if you know enough. And it's saying, it's basically once you know at least 30% that this is good enough, go. If you go past like 50 or 60%, you've wasted a bunch of time. You've played yourself. And that's the point. It's like all I needed to see was, oh damn, these people are clear. It was Cameron, it was Avery. I was like, man, these motherfuckers have so much goddamn integrity. And what I knew of them at that point, that was like 1/10 of the integrity that as I got closer to them, I'm like, holy shit. But I never would have discovered to that degree what is possible, the integrity that I could develop had I not made the initial decision. It's not about being impulsive. It's about moving forward all the time. And part of moving forward is, let's say, you want to put that brick in that cutout. Okay, start sanding, like just get at it, sound it down if you can do that beforehand and then just put it through. That's progressing, right? Start working on your free. There's so many times in the past where I know that there's something bothering me and I just don't use the tools. I want to talk about it. I want to get other people's perspective. Yeah, I want to tell people. I want to hear what people have to say. But really, truly, I want to suck energy from other people.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of like what Cameron was saying of like, imagine you're like, oh my God, Katie, there was this crazy spider. Like, you just want to get her to be like, oh my God, like, are you okay? Like, you're just trying to get that reaction so you feel something rather than just dealing with it. Right. And so in the context of what we're talking about, the reason why people wouldn't be doing what we're doing is because they don't understand or they don't believe in themselves, which is actually a lack of understanding. Because we have the tools of change. This is why Avery says, he always says, for the first time in history. And he's talking about all of history. Everything that we need in order to change is here. And we have access to it. And we shouldn't take for granted, this is now me speaking again, we shouldn't take for granted the point that there's, I would say, less than 1,000 or 2,000 people who can even have access to it due to like the number of people who are even aware of the tools of self-perfection is like less than 1,000 or 2,000. That's not something to be taken lightly. Because just as it was a total roll of the dice, dude, you can see that in the camera, right? That's crazy.
What happened?
Oh, it's just Nutella.
You get bit by a spider?
Right. I was hanging something to cut myself. But the point being that with my best filler is, my point is, or the point being, it's my best filler. Gets me back on track.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Now everybody's gonna know about it. Damn
Mine is I forgot what I was talking about.
it. I usually do my point being that, and then if I don't remember by the end of when I'm saying that, then I spill the beans. My point being that I forgot.
Nice.
I don't remember what I was talking about, dude.
I don't know.
Well, this group was a perfect example, honestly, though, of like I was watching other people sand down their blocks, and I was like, okay, I got to do what they're doing to get the things that I want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is such a clear example of like, who do you like? The first basic concept that Kevin Trudeau teaches is, who do you listen to? Like this when I joined this group was the first time that I ever saw people. I'm like, oh, there's people that actually have what I want. And that are like living in a way that this is so practical and makes sense. And it's like cool also because everyone's like in the same kind of like age. Like, yeah, we have people of all walks of life, ages and everything and backgrounds, but the majority of the group that's really active and participating are pretty young people. And this is not the norm of what you see in like
That's really true. That's true.
Yeah.
Top generation and shit like that. Yeah.
So it's just, so it just made like all these like inner desires that I truly wanted for my life, like become a reality, because I was like, oh, there are people that actually do have something really cool and stable and practical for what it means to have the best life possible. And then also on top of that, this is like actually doing something about this current system that we're participating in and living in, and actually who are doing something to actually change that. Like many people, like even the UN has like all these projects and plans to end world hunger and like provide housing for everybody, and none of their projects are on track for 2030. I checked recently on their website, like all these global initiatives and stuff that they're doing. So I'm like, what? So even like the most humanitarian organizations are not even like coming close to actually creating a world that's best for people, even though everyone claims they want to change the world. But this is the first time really that I've ever seen a group with such integrity that's actually practically doing that. And I was like, I need to be a part of it.
Which is really cool. And I always tell you, like, I'm like, you have high self-esteem, is because, and here's the beauty of it. In the past, when I would see other people and I would label whatever it is that makes them great, I'd be like, haha, that's why I don't have to change. That's why I won't be able to do it. Right. But I'm always communicating that to you to support whoever you end up supporting, right? To be equal to that. Where I'm just seeing, like any point that I'm giving into fear. So what I'm referring to specifically is when Christine was talking about, she saw a group of people who had what she wanted and they're working on themselves every day. And rather than having a bunch of stupid fears just playing her head ad infinitum, she probably was like, whatever, had thoughts, blah, blah, blah. But like, I'm just going to go for it. See what happens. That's what we should all be equal to. What I was sharing with her is that's a result of having high self-esteem. You're not as afraid. Right. But my point is, we can all just realize, oh, I don't have to hold on to these fears. They're not actually serving me, because there's a bunch of individuals who don't give in to fear who get results in their life. In fact, that's the only times I've gotten results in my life. What I was talking about before was the dice roll of being born into a country where you actually have all your basic needs, that you can have access to them in an automated fashion. For example, water. It's like a total roll of the dice, the chances are very, very slim, right? To be in the top 1%, 30,000 US dollars, 33,000 US dollars a year. It's like to have the opportunity to make that money is like, 1 in 100, right? 1%. And so to even make $30,000 a year, would that be a great life here? No, right? So my point is, to even have exposure to that, it's like, don't take that for granted. Within that, to have exposure to these tools is far, far, far more slim of a chance. Where, like I was saying, let's say it's less than 1,000, 2,000 people out of 8 billion. It's not something you should take for granted. And you may not know the entire value of them, but you will not know that until you do it, until you actually do the fucking process, until you come to the gin event and experience. It's going to be so great because you're going to see the difference between, that group of people, what are they talking about? What are they focused on? What are their results? Oh, that group of people, what are they talking about? What are they focused on? What are their results? You will know. You will know who's been using our tools. When I say our tools, I don't mean like we own them. I'm just saying that using the tools that we use.
Right.
You will be able to see the difference and hear the difference.
Dude, that event's going to be fucking sick.
Dude, it's going to be so nasty.
Like already, I'm so hyped. Just
Disgusting.
the amount of people that I've talked to just recently of like, who are ready, like here in Florida, like the people that they're just lay people, normal
It's gonna be
people.
so gross. It's gonna be awesome.
You just
that's cool now, right? Ill, sick.
Yeah. But like the way that things are operating here, like people are they are excited to go out and meet new people. Like it's like people have become children again and they're so excited to talk to people.
So cool.
We went for a walk yesterday and so many people just like stopped us like, hey, how's it going? Where are you from? Like, what's going on?
Why
Like,
was that though? Tell them why was that?
I was wearing a shirt that said Canada on it. And so,
it was
Even
such
so.
a conversation starter.
yeah.
Dude, I should do that.
People love Canadians here, okay? So definitely when you come down, wear your Canada shirts,
Did you give that to him or something?
Yeah, of course.
That's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
funny.
Why would I have a Canada shirt on my own? I'm like,
I don't know, dude. You do some funny shit.
but
This is true.
but people are like, they're open to meeting new people. And it's just going to be a really great opportunity. If you've been cooped up in your house or just in your like normal environment, you want to meet new people, you're ready to like grow and expand and meet people who are thinking similar to you, people who listen to things like this podcast or Your Wish Is Your Command or anything like that. Like if any of that is even somewhat appealing to you, you have to be at this event, because where else are you going to meet people in person who are like the like what were you saying? Like basically
Christine's gonna be there.
Christine's going to be there.
That should be reason enough.
Exactly.
Like,
We can
but
finally meet
it's
in person.
what, like 1,000 out of 8 billion people, or like maybe 5,000 people that you might randomly come across. It's going to be very rare. But here, there's a specific point where these people are going to be here. It's planned. If you can make it, they're there. They're also going to make it as well.
8,000 people. Let's say 8,000 people even know about the gin event.
Right.
If it was 8,000, right? And they can come and stuff.
Yeah.
That's 0.0001%.
There you go.
Not bad, huh, buddies?
Not a bad.
Well, let them know, Drake.
Well, okay. Well, hey, listen, I'd love to see you guys at that event. So go register for it right now.
Well, here's some more sales. Okay, here's the. Okay, I'm just thinking about what angle to take. That was that. What this one. Okay. Aristotle Onassis, richest motherfucker in the world, after the war.
Yep.
Because he bought up all the ships, because he saw that the world was going international, became the richest man in the world. He was interviewed, right? They said, hey, if you lost everything, what would be the number one factor that would be responsible for you getting back up to wealth mania, right? And he said, what did he say?
He said, I would associate with wealthy people.
Imagine, okay, there's a concept. It's called harmonics or resonance. And if you strike a tuning fork and you bring it close to another tuning fork, you don't even have to strike that second tuning fork. It will start vibrating, right? Just like an opera singer can produce a specific frequency, a pitch with their voice, and it'll shatter the crystal glass. Imagine that crystal glass is all of your motherfucking limitations. And then you walk into a room with 20 people.
20 opera singers.
Exactly. 20 opera singers in this analogy, but in the context of what you probably are after, 20 people who are en route to becoming billionaires. Even better, en route, because then you can download what you need to be doing. Not let this person who's already a billionaire tell you about their past in a completely day and age who can't relate to you. I'm talking about people who are en route, who actually understand what you're going through and have been through, have walked what you're walking through. One of you enters, and instead of one tuning fork, there's 20 tuning forks, all vibrating. You cannot help but be affected. Your limitations, the crystal glasses within you, cannot help but shatter. I don't care if you liked what you were drinking out of that crystal glass gonna break. Point being, every single gin event beforehand, Drake, I'm realizing, right, like all the stuff that we talked about on our last call.
Yeah.
The people who are listening to this, they would miss all of it. So it's worth repeating.
Yeah,
right?
no, 100%.
It's like every single gin event that me and Kian, before we go to it, we're always like, I don't know if we should go. Like, is it even worth it this time? Like, we already, benefited a lot. Like, I think we should just focus on what we're doing. And then we always reflect, well, what happened last gin event? Every single time our life changes in a radical way. We're always hitting new acceleration benchmarks, right? And let me tell you, every single time, not every single time, but at the points when it was most inconvenient for us to go to the event financially, because of responsibilities that we have with our business, having to make arrangements and a bunch of things is totally inconvenient, that we're thinking, man, we should just stay and make this money or do this thing so that we can just focus on what we're doing, because we're progressing like this linearly. But human beings have a very difficult time thinking exponentially. And this is the way it looks for those of you on camera, right? It's like, this is what you see your progress as, right? But because you're aware, like, oh, exponential, right? Exponential increase. You adjust. You're like, okay, you know what? I'm adjust for here, because I got to take into consideration exponential increase, but that's still not even close to the fucking reality of a real exponential graph. We don't have that ability because, like we said, like Christine was saying, you don't even know what is to come. You don't know the opportunities to come. The point is, when you move yourself, you put yourself in new situations, you break your habits, you break your patterns, that fucking opens you right up. So the times when it was most inconvenient for us to be at a gin event, whew, those were the ones that really blew our balls off. Grew new ones. Crazy. Didn't even have balls before, dude. But the point being that I can virtually guarantee, and the reason I say virtually is because at the end of the day, it depends on you. If you show up there and you're like, I don't want to be here the whole time, and you fucking avoid everybody and like, just like, I wish the food was better. I wish I spilled something on my tie and like now my day is ruined. It's like, if you do that the whole time, yeah, you're not going to get value, right? Because you're the answer at the end of the day.
You should probably stay home.
You should stay home.
You stay the fuck home. I don't want you there.
Like, I spent so much money on this. Like, what am I going to do? I have to benefit, right?
Yeah.
But other than that, if you have a sincere desire, when I say sincere, within yourself, honestly, you actually want to change, I can virtually guarantee that you will change here. And I heard if you get to touch each of Drake's butt cheeks, your income goes up by 20%. If you hug, yeah, you have to
Each
do
of
each
them?
one. Yeah, one time. If you hug Avery Williams, your income goes up by 30%.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So just decide to come
Right.
if you're thinking about it.
yeah, cut off. What she's saying is cut off all other options, right? Make the decision. And then from there, just commit. Whatever happens, happens. But just within yourself, you have to make that decision. If your starting point is fear, that should be the indicator. Oh, but what if I don't have the money? What if I don't get the benefit I want? What, any kind of point of fear that you're accepting within that, let that go to show that this is the thing that you need to do. This is the fear that you should do. This is the fear that you should push past.
Yeah. 100%. Push past that fear, make the decision, come to the event, and we'll see you there. We'll have a great fucking time.
Touch both of Drake's ass cheeks. It'll be really good.
Go for it.
I'll be there. I try to get my touches in each day.
Yeah. The thing is, I run fast, so you're gonna have to catch me. You're gonna have to work.
I'm trying to Grant Cardone 10x my income, man. So I'm an Avery touching Drake's butt cheek.
Yeah. Other than that, hey, if you're not aware, we have a Facebook group where we do a lot more participation and interaction with the people within that group.
A lot more participation, more than us participating with people who are not on the podcast right now.
Yeah, exactly. If you're on the podcast right now, we may have not been really participating with you. I don't know. You might have been shouting things at us and we didn't hear you. I'm sorry. Maybe you wrote something in the comments and we ignored it, all that stuff. But when you come into the Facebook group, it's a lot harder to ignore those things because you're right there in front of our faces. So we'll try to ignore some of you, but for the most part, no, we interact and that's where you get the real support. That's where you can participate and really be a part of this and show yourself, again, as I was saying before, show yourself where you need to step up, where you need to take more responsibility, where you need to grow and actually get the support to do it, right? Mm-hmm. So that Facebook group is Self-Perfected. If you just type in Self-Perfected in Facebook, you'll find it, answer the questions, and we'll see you inside. Or you can also go to self-perfected.com, or just Google Self-Perfected. We should be the first thing that comes up. And you can find our principles. You can find the Facebook link there. You can find some other resources. I forget what else is on there. You can also find the shop on there as well. If you like this cool gear that we're rocking over here, we got the spells shirt, the Self-Perfected hat.
Self-Perfected.
Yay.
Not bad.
Not bad, buddy.
She has the better. She downloaded this not bad resonance when she was here.
Yeah, you got it, man.
But Christine, anything else you want to share?
Well, I was gonna just add on one point. Right now, literally, it's like less than we are the 1%, but like less than 0.1% of the world of the people are actually running this world. Mm-hmm. So if that's all that it takes to control everything, we just need a new set of 0.1% of people. And maybe that could be you.
And whether or not it's you, it's literally up to you.
There you go.
Literally. Like you literally just do what Drake just mentioned. You can message me on Facebook. You can message Drake on Facebook, Jessica, Mitchell, Christine. We're all happy to support you and guiding you and showing you, because there's people who are finding us that have no idea who we are, just finding us through the podcast and stuff like that. Let this listening, if you're hearing this, let this be different than the other podcasts that you listen to. Let this, and again, it's up to you. Let this be different than the other YouTube videos that you watch where you're trying to improve yourself, but you never actually do anything. Make the decision to join the Facebook group or message one of us or whatever to make a move on jumping it. Because just like Christine, how long have you been part of it now?
It's so funny. I literally was going to bring this up. I haven't moved myself this much ever in my life than I have in the last 7 months.
7 months.
I literally joined Self-Perfected December 1st.
I was literally convincing myself that I was at the beginning of like 2019, because I can't even fathom that, but it's so absolutely 100% true. And all of it like literally, if I could sum up Christine, there's all the reasons why she had this trait, but all of that's irrelevant because if you just focus on making a decision and moving forward is just moving forward. Don't go into all the ideas or, what if, the gin event, what if the border doesn't open, blah, blah, blah. Or what if I join Self-Perfected and it doesn't work out for me or whatever, or do I really have to do it? Just move forward and you'll grow even faster than Christine. Maybe. Christine was consistent. And that's what I commend you for. There's never been a point where you didn't like, okay, that's a limitation of mine. All right, I'm going to go work on it.
I'm not gonna lie, like I definitely thank my parents for that on some level. Like this is the one thing where especially my dad, like never allowed us to accept limitations. Like if there was something that we needed to do to learn, it was like, you got to go do it. So it's like, that's always been stuck within me. Like, and that's why I don't accept literally limitation or fears necessarily, especially if it's something to move myself forward. It's like, well, no, I'm going to grow through this. I'll be like shitting my pants on the inside, right? Or like really having a hard time internally, but it's like, I know that's the point of change. And I know that's like something that people are like really afraid of. And I was just going to say this, like everyone thinks about everything that they have to lose. Well, what about everything you can gain from all these decisions?
Is your starting point fear or creation or growth? All right. Well said. Spells. Man, give her a spells ring, dude. You have rings yet? No?
What?
We'll make it happen on the Self-Perfected store.
Exactly. Yo, give your parents a shout out right now and then make them listen to it.
Shout out Carmen and Greg. It's in Scarborough, Toronto, Ontario.
That's awesome. Christine, thanks for being on. This is really cool.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Nice.
It was awesome.
What are you saying, my G?
That's it. Let's wrap it up. Let's go. I'll see you guys next week.
Me and Drake need to talk about our poops after this. Christine said she's going to join in too. So rock and roll, baby. I heard you guys have been having better poop conversations than me and Drake. So it's okay if I get replaced, but.
Well, I think it's my nutrition background. Maybe, people just like feel more comfortable speking to that stuff.
100%. I'm pretty sure you brought my poo conversation out when you were here.
100%.
100%. I respect that. Nice. Cool. Alrighty.
All right.
Peace.